morning and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, March 28th. This proceeding is being broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. Board of Water and Power Commissioners, please say present for roll call. Commissioner KATZ.
Present.
Commissioner LEHRER. President McCLAIN-HILL.
Present.
Commissioner NEEMAN BRADY. Vice President RUIZ.
Present.
3 board members, a quorum is present. Madam President.
Thank you. And I do have a couple of opening remarks today. First, I just want to acknowledge that a campaign started yesterday, a Blue Square campaign, a campaign that seeks to elevate and amplify the despicable and overwhelming amount of hate that is being directed at members of the Jewish community in this country. It's a campaign that amplifies the fact that only 2.5% of U.S. Residents are Jewish, and yet 55% of religious hate crimes are directed at that community. I think it's important that that none of us face these challenges in isolation, and I just wanted to do my part and to have this organization take a moment to think about how you become an ally, how you help stand against the kind of religious discrimination and bigotry that is all too often being directed at members of our community, at our friends, at our neighbors, at our family members. And just take a moment to acknowledge that that is going on today in the United States. On a different note, I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that we are coming to the close of Women's History Month, a time to celebrate not only women's contribution to history and the culture, but to recognize the most fundamental journey of all, our inextricable march toward total agency and autonomy. It was in 1980 that President Jimmy Carter declared March 8th to be the first day of Women's History Week. 8 years later, Congress designated March as a month-long celebration. During the month of March, I'm reminded of one of my favorite books written by Nicholas Kristof and Sherilyn Wundon, titled Half the Sky, Turning Oppression into Opportunity for Women Worldwide. The book, written in 2009, advances the proposition that the oppression of women worldwide is the paramount moral challenge of our time, as much as the fight against slavery was in the past. And it is very difficult to contemplate the ongoing oppression of women, the brutal and unspeakable acts against women's bodies as a part of war, and the subjugation of women across the globe without taking their point. The title comes from a Chinese proverb meaning, women hold up half the sky. I could never imagine in 2009 that in 2023 we'd be debating in this country women's choices about their bodies. It is against that backdrop that I am always so pleased to be part of the incredible sisterhood of women here at DWP. We come from every part of the globe and represent every faith, speak languages, different diversity of languages. We have a diversity of beliefs and talents. But what we share is a bond, a respect, a sisterhood, an encouragement that is just second to none. it is especially important, this is an especially important time to celebrate the undeniable role that women play in LADWP's history, then and now, especially those who were trailblazers or are ahead of their time, those who broke the glass ceiling. The enthusiasm, the spirit, the grit of the women at DWP is on full display day after day after day, and for that I'm grateful. This past Saturday was a particularly fun time when hundreds of women showed up from this agency, braving temperatures in the 40s. To stand together to celebrate one another and to walk around one of our many, many assets. Thank you I want to acknowledge that there will be a presentation from SWE here today, and I'm grateful and interested very much in seeing and hearing that presentation, and I appreciate the time this morning that I've been afforded to say a few things about both the campaign against hate and the incredible women of LADWP. Thank you. Are there any other remarks this morning? All right, then we will move on to general public comment.
Public comment is now open. Good morning, speakers. Please be mindful that you will have 2 minutes to address the board. The first speaker is Mark Hoviter, who will be followed by Mark Riccio or Riccio.
Hello, I'm Mark Hoviter, Los Angeles Unified School District, the Chief of Facilities. I want to thank this group. We've had an incredible partnership. I've been with the district over 20 years, and almost all of it has been very pleasant between the two of us. But the things we've been able to accomplish, 9 years ago, we committed to reducing our water consumption by 20% within the next 10 years. For us, that's 2.5 billion gallons of water, so we were going to reduce it by 500 million. We did it last year, so we might as well go to 25. We've been equally aggressive at trying to put water back into our stormwater systems. We have 75 different stormwater collection detention systems on 50 campuses, and we're continuing to modernize our campuses. We'll do that on every one of our campuses. Right now, we're collecting water from our sites only, but we're very optimistic that we're going to get to the point that water doesn't stop at the fence line. We should be able to do joint collections, and we think that's going to be better for everyone as we go. And we've been very aggressive with our electrical program and our reduction efforts similar to our water, but we're also extremely committed to getting to 100% clean energy consumption by 2030. To do that, we're partnering with you, and we're going to produce 70 megawatts of our own electricity. We've got 32 sites that are in contract stages right now that we're going to award soon. We'll get between 3/4 and a megawatt on each one of those, more if we're able to work out the feed-in tariff provisions. I'm here today to speak to item number 10. I think it's an important piece of part of our program to get to our goals. 2030, we're not done. We have to go on and get everything that we consume is powered by energy that's clean energy, which means no fossil fuels. All of our buses, we have 1,200 buses. Every one of them are going to be electric. Our buses, we think it provides great opportunity for continued partnership because we're going to continue to charge our buses even in the summer when we don't need them, because that's our storage batteries on wheels. And then we can feed those back into the system where people need them, where we're not necessarily consuming those. So anything that we can do with storage is going to be great. It's the next plateau of where we're going. I see nothing but remarkable things, and I thank this group and its commissioners for everything that you've done to support us, and there's going to be great things that will happen for LA and for our students, and thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say Director of Facilities?
I am the Chief of Facilities for Los Angeles Unified School District.
No, I'm just, we don't normally get into a dialogue during general comment or public comment, but you're here. So 2 things. A, I want to say on behalf of a board member who's no longer here, Jill Berard, that she would be extremely, that she would want to highlight the work that you also do, supported by this department to advance conservation education with young people. I know that she was particularly fond of the buckets, and there would never be a time when LAUSD came up when she did not reference the bucket. So on her behalf, I want to make that point. And then on a second point, I just want to encourage the district to think about all of the blacktop that it has on its campuses throughout the city. As you, I am certain, know, during extreme heat, some of the hottest places in Los Angeles are LAUSD schools in South LA or out in the valley. A great deal of progress could be made around impacting or mitigating some of the impacts of extreme heat were the district to rapidly look at greening those blacktops and other interventions that involve the planting of trees and other shade kinds of elements. And I am certain that that is something that we would love to discuss with you and to help facilitate. So while we're extremely proud of this program, or at least I'm extremely proud of this program, and plan to vote for item 10, there is a great deal of work to do in order to make our community safe. And LAUSD has a significant role to play.
If I can make one comment on pavement, we're committed to reducing all our asphalt by 30%. Last night at our board, we had 30 projects that were approved. We're committed to spend over $90 million in the next 2 years to reduce asphalt, to put green or brown. Brown's the new green, decomposed granite. And for the stuff that we do have to leave as pavement, we're going to do cool coating on it, so it'll help the overall effect as well.
Thank you. Very good to hear. Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, can I chime in as well?
Absolutely. You're here. What can we say?
I'd like to second the president's comments, and I'm really glad to hear the initiative to reduce asphalt. I know there are many schools doing wonderful work, but I want to call out Esperanza Elementary. They've really done some incredible work on the access to nature side and really connecting children with biodiversity that I think could be a model throughout the district. And I hope that some of that asphalt removal will focus on nature-based solutions and native plants and native biodiversity. But I also just want to commend these overall efforts that the district has done, because I recognize, coming from higher education, the power that buildings and the built environment can have as a teaching tool, and the way in which having solar on site or stormwater catchment on site can also in itself be a teaching tool for our children. So thank you very much for your leadership.
One more comment. Our asphalt removal projects are not asphalt removal projects, they're outdoor classroom projects.
Excellent.
It just happens that we're taking out asphalt to build the classrooms.
I can only say that Commissioner LEHRER is not here today. Otherwise, as a landscape architect, you have yet another person to listen to before you can take your seat. So no, thank you so very much, and I look forward to learning more about the work at LAUSD. And we are very happy for the partnership.
The next speaker is Mark Riccio, who will be followed by David Fink.
Good morning. My name is Mark Riccio, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Highland Electric Fleets. And I'd like to thank the board this morning for giving me the opportunity to support item number 10, which is the CES2G program here today. Highland has the most electric school buses under active contract in North America. We provide a comprehensive turnkey solution in the form of electrification as a service contract that delivers electric school buses, charging infrastructure, and supporting services to school districts. We have the largest active project really in the world in North America involving electric school buses with Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland. We're implementing 326 electric school buses there. We also have one of the most successful vehicle-to-grid demand response programs in North America with Beverly Public Schools and National Grid. We've been able to discharge over 2 successful seasons about 10.8 megawatts of energy, leveraging electric school buses as distributed energy resources. If you take that amount of energy, that's enough to power about 200 homes in Massachusetts in a single day. And that program is only involved right now with 2 electric school buses. We're very supportive of LADWP's efforts in creating in crafting innovative non-stationary grid-connected energy storage programs like CES2G that expand community resilience and support innovative financing opportunities for fleets to electrify. Highland is currently deploying some of the first V2G school bus projects in the country. We're active now in 30 states and growing, and also in Canada. And we believe that this technology not only leads to future cost savings for school districts, but also enables electric school buses to operate as a community asset when the grid is down, thereby enhancing community resilience. Programs like CES2G will create meaningful guardrails and assurances that are essential for our company to operate and develop vehicle-to-grid projects in LA County. I implore you to please ratify this today. We have a lot of projects pending. We do yellow electric school bus. We also do white fleet, which is municipal and commercial. And this program is going to really open a lot of doors, and we make significant investments to put the steel in the ground and make everything right. I'd like to thank you again for your time and the opportunity to speak with you all today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is David Fink, and I'm the Sustainability Director at the Los Angeles Business Council. We're a business advocacy and research organization with over 500 members across greater Los Angeles. And on behalf of LABC, I'm here to speak in support of the proposed commercial energy storage to pilot program, which will help Los Angeles and California address our urgent energy reliability needs. The program will enable Los Angeles to address multiple challenges at once through harnessing the untapped battery storage capacity of mobile battery sources such as buses and trucks, and by incentivizing stationary batteries. The electrification of transportation creates a once-in-a-generation opportunity for EVs to not only decarbonize transportation, but also keep the lights on during power outages and improve local air quality. Both mobile battery sources and in-basin stationary battery storage can store abundant renewable energy when available and provide peak power when the grid needs it most. Widespread adoption of these untapped battery sources will help LADWP phase out fossil fuel-powered backup generators and reduce reliance on polluting power plants, enabling us to reach our LA 100 goals sooner, all while making the grid more resilient. LABC has dozens of renewable energy developers and property owners in our membership who currently participate in LADWP's FIT program and have waited for a standalone battery incentive program such as this to help grow the industry locally, create new jobs, and help the city meet our renewable energy goals. We hope that this program can be quickly scaled up and turned into a permanent program while incorporating lessons learned from the pilot, since we need to expand our in-basin storage capacity urgently. For these reasons, the Los Angeles Business Council is excited to support the Commercial Energy Storage to Pilot program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Public comment is now closed.
All right, thank you so very much. Report from the general manager.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Begin with, we'll keep with tradition. I'll first turn it over to Anselmo to give us the lowdown on what's going on with the storms and the aquatic conditions so he can bring us up to speed. This report will be good till tomorrow when it rains again, so go ahead.
Yes, so it keeps coming, commissioners. There's another storm that's supposed to be hitting Los Angeles later today, tomorrow, and in the OS Valley there is actually more snow coming to the point that right now we sit around 285% of normal as of April 1st. So that just tells you the significant amount of water. Once we do our last snow survey, we'll probably be able to confirm that this is more than likely the wettest year in history. I think we shared before that with the board that the wettest year in history was recorded in 1969. We believe that we have blown past that by quite a bit, as a matter of fact, which is great news from a perspective of water supply, but obviously that comes out of our price. In LA, we actually got them 27 inches of snow, of water, not snow, water. That would be news, right? 27 inches of water, which is quite a bit more than the average of 14 inches. Because of all the rain in LA, we've been able to capture a little over 100,000 acre feet of water with our stormwater capture program. which is the most amount of water we've ever captured with storms. That's enough water for over 400,000 households to get water for an entire year. So this is pretty significant amount of water that we've been able to capture. Also, because of all the precipitation we've seen in the state, the Department of Water Resources for the state of California just increased the allocation of the State Water Project to 75%. So it went from 35% like a month ago, they increased it to 75%. And there's talk that it might even go above that. So that's pretty significant. Everybody's doing their part to basically move as much water as possible. I can tell you that this past weekend, I had a chance to go to Oroville and to take a look at that. And they were actually spilling 15,000 cubic feet per second of water through their spillway. So just imagine a cubic foot is like a basketball. Imagine 15,000 basketballs every second passing by you. That's how much water they were actually releasing from the reservoir in preparation for the runoff, because they went from being a very low elevation to over 80% in a matter of a few weeks. So they're getting prepared the same way that the aqueduct staff is getting prepared. As you know, we have an item later on to discuss about the preparation for emergency. My staff and the department staff in general has been working really hard in fixing the aqueduct, the portions that we have to fix, but also now preparing for the runoff that we know is going to be coming in the spring. It takes a village, definitely, to get all this work done. So staff will be working really hard with our partners in getting the Owens Valley ready for the significant runoff we expect to get. That's it. Thank you, Marty.
And so I just did want to make a comment. I just want to acknowledge Adam Perez, the LA Aqueduct Director, for doing a fantastic job. I know it's a team effort, but I just wanted to acknowledge his leadership.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll pass it along to Adam. He's been doing an absolute great job as the incident commander and also as the aqueduct manager. So him and his entire team are doing a great job.
Yeah, I just want to, well, I'll wait till the end. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a few slides from Saturday's event. We had the Women's Power Walk, as our board president mentioned, and actually all of our board members were here. Were there.
We had a quorum.
That's right. We had a quorum. So, and yes, we did. So it was a great day on Saturday. We were lucky, had clear skies. As you'd said, Madam President, it was cold and about 25-mile-an-hour wind coming off the water, so that made it an experience to remember. But it was a beautiful day out there. A lot of employees and their family members showed up. It was great to see LA Reservoir. It's the home of the 96 million shade balls that are pretty world famous, and a lot of our key facilities in the water system, and also some key facilities that we house for other city agencies. We were fortunate to have a lot of folks that supported this. Water and Power Credit Union was there to partner with us by providing snacks and help with raffle items that we gave away. The event was sponsored by our Women's Council here, as well as our SWE organization. And staff members from corporate safety, corporate strategy and communications, water operations, security services, human resources, DEI, and the board office were all took part in organizing this event. So it's become our second annual event, and we might have to find an in-between time to do it, not have to wait a whole nother year for something. Maybe we could have an in-between Women's Power Walk. But it was a great chance also for our employees to not only get out and be together, but also see some key things they may not get to see all the time. Other good events coming up. We have this Saturday is our Chatsworth Earth Day open house. Everybody always says it's not actually Earth Day on Saturday. We always do it on a different day than Earth Day. So that'll be on Saturday. That is open to the public. We'll begin with blessing by the Fernandino Tatavian Band of Mission Indians. There'll be guided nature hikes. There's storytelling. There's quite a few, probably 24 or more exhibitors with animal and other exhibits and environmental exhibits. Quite a community event. This is open to the public. We typically get about 2,000 people there, but Chatsworth is so large, it looks like it's hardly occupied. So it's a great time to be outside, and this year ought to be something else. The ecology pond should be full of water. Everything should be growing and blooming. Should be a lot of wildlife out there in addition to the exhibits. So we encourage everyone who's interested to come join us. There's information at LADWP.com. /CNP, that stands for Chatsworth Nature Preserve Earth Day. So there's information there on that event as well. So we hope to get a good turnout from the public. Last week we had the Canadian Water Roadshow. This is something we started back in 2016 in conjunction with the Canadian Consulate locally to bring technologies and businesses that might have ideas for us into the water area. We actually one year did a water and power combined roadshow. It's an issue where we actually identify what our needs are. The Canadian Consulate identifies companies that might have products or services that would help us. And so over the course of time, we've actually engaged with a number of companies through this effort. And so it's been a great chance to talk about our challenges. And it's part of our international effort to really spread ourselves to find out what technologies are available, not just locally, but also around the world, so that we're not reinventing the wheel and always trying to access ourselves to the best technologies and solutions that are out there. So that was another good success this last week. Our Easy Safe program continues with the success. We had a decline during COVID of enrollment. We saw a 25% increase at the end of 2022, and we're now at an all-time high of 150,000 customers participating in the Easy Safe program. And this is the roll-up of our programs for low-income and disadvantaged customers. So we have another campaign coming up in 2023, actually a couple campaigns in 2023 to increase enrollment. But we've really reached out through every media venue, every type of advertisement, working both with customer service, corporate strategy, communications, and DEI to really try to reach as many customers who are eligible as possible so we can help as many people as possible.
I've seen a great campaign on social media.
Yeah, thank you. It's been, Joe Romalo's run a strong campaign, and we've seen it's made a difference, a huge uptick in last couple months. We also participated March 10th through the 12th in the Abilities Expo. It was put on by the city's Department of Disability at the Convention Center, and they had about 7,000 of attendees, about a 40% increase from the previous year, primarily people with disabilities. And our folks were there, particularly customer service folks and people from our service centers, to help people understand the different products and programs that we have available to them to help them in their life and to help them financially with their water and power bills. And so we participated in that and had a great success, and employees had a lot of satisfaction from taking part in that as well. So lastly, I want to turn over to Aaron. We've got a couple of personnel announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I have a couple of announcements on the appointments of the interim head of the security services and the supply chain director. So on March 3rd, Arnold Esquita was appointed as interim director of Security Services Division. Arnold brings over 30 years of experience in the security services organization. Him and I go way back. We've been on projects together. I've known him personally, and I'm very pleased that he took the interim role as we prepare for the permanent assignment of that position. Also, yesterday, Edith Williams was officially appointed as the Director of Supply Chain Services. The same, Edith and I go way back. We've been working together. She brings a wealth of information and experience to this division. She has a bachelor's and a master's degree in public administration from Cal State LA, and she's been involved in major deployment of systems in the supply chain. She's been involved in major contracts. She's managed that place for a long time, and she brings a huge depth of leadership and experience to that. So I just want to welcome both of them. If they're here, if they can stand up and just be recognized, and thank you for accepting the position.
And unless there's any questions, that concludes my report.
I just have a couple of comments. First, with respect to the report from Water Systems, it is clear that we have dodged the proverbial bullet with respect to all of the rain that has come to California over the last few months. But I do want to make sure that we're prepared for the reality of our future. And so I am going to want to see a pretty comprehensive briefing to the board on the progress of Operation Next, on any challenges associated with the deployment of Operation Next. I'm concerned about what we face in the next few weeks and months as snow begins to melt. And want to make sure that we are as proactive as we can be, not just in terms of the work that we're doing, but also in terms of preparing the public. Sometimes, it's just, we can't stop the water and the potential for damage or flooding or other unforeseen, or let's not, I won't say unforeseen, other eventualities that could be problematic. We are conditioned to provide good news and to celebrate our wins. But as you said, those wins are coming at a significant cost, and we need to be very proactive and very fulsome about what it's taking to manage this very unusual occurrence or this new occurrence. It may become more standard than not, and we need to think about that as well. But also we want to make sure, we've seen, in other areas, some pretty dramatic and deadly flooding. And we want to make sure that we are in front of the ball as it relates to any potential flooding, as it relates to any damage that may be done as we move this water around, and that we're clear about the potential choices that we may be facing. It's much better on the front end to have people understand what could happen, because not only can we prepare, but they can prepare, than it is to report on the back end how well we've done or what we've had to sacrifice in achieving our objectives. So, very great news that it's raining. If only it would spread out a little bit, but great news. And really great news that, that things are filling up and that will get us through for a little bit. But now's the time to prepare, and to prepare in earnest for what we know the long-term implications of climate change are for this region. And also to really not only give the best case, but the worst case assessment of what happens if that snow starts to melt and melt fast.
Okay. Commissioner, just if you don't mind, absolutely agree 100% what you just said. When it comes to preparing and making sure the public is aware, DWP, as part of the community up in Owens Valley, we participate in the regional coordination. So the county our offices are there, sheriff department. We work with them really closely to make sure that as we see the water start moving, that we keep the public informed. You're 100% right that there's been a lot of flooding in different areas, caused a lot of damage. And we want to make sure that we protect not just the aqueduct, but the people that live in these communities, many of whom happen to be department employees as well. So your message is well received. We'll continue to work on that. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with Joe Ramallo a couple of weeks ago about having one of his staff members spend more time up in Owens Valley helping with the communication part of it as well. So like you said, we need to make sure we can let people know. We have plans in place. But I think it's good to always remind people. You sometimes forget about the hazards until you see a problem. And at that point, it's too late. So I appreciate the comments, and we will certainly provide you with a briefing on Operation Next and where we are and the challenges. And also we can talk about what we're doing to prepare for the future, where it's going to be more rain than snow. And we're going to be getting it at times when we don't necessarily need the rain, and what to do with it. So that's certainly part of what the entire state needs to do from a water management perspective. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then with respect to the women's walk, I just want to acknowledge the really exemplary work by Fleet Services and by Security Services, all of whom were out there a whole lot earlier than us and who were joyful in their support of the event. And I think that in addition to saluting the women of this department, I do want to acknowledge all of the men that support the goals and the ambitions of the women here. So thank you to both those divisions. And with that, I think we can move on. I'm unaware of any motions for future consideration. Comments from ratepayer advocate on agendized item? Sir?
Yes. We have a specific report in the agenda on item 10, which offers our support for that item with some guide rails.
Then why don't we do this? We'll call item 10 special,
Okay,
and you can provide your report at that time. Does that work?
yes.
Okay. Anything else?
There are a number of items dealing with benefits on today's agenda. We have completed a total compensation benchmarking effort based on calendar year 2019, and it looked at the benefits as part of the overall compensation package, and we believe them to be reasonable.
Thank you, sir.
That isn't specific to these contracts, but to all the benefits taken as a package.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Then we can, anything from neighborhood council representatives?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on any of the items on today's agenda.
Terrific. Then we are calling special items 9 and 10. Other than that, if we could have a motion, I would like to entertain it at this time.
So moved.
Second?
So a motion will need to identify, so it would be for items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11.
Commissioner Ruiz cannot vote on item 11.
Got it. So we will go a motion for items 1 through 8.
Second?
So I've moved. It's been seconded by Commissioner KATZ. If we could call the roll, please.
Commissioner KATZ,
Aye.
President McCLAIN-HILL,
Aye.
Vice President Ruiz.
Aye.
3 ayes, motion adopted.
Terrific, thank you. I assume that it takes 3 votes to pass an item, therefore we're deferring item 11, is that correct?
It does, here.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be deferring item 11 and we'll come back to 9 and 10. And we will move now to management reports, beginning with presentation number 1 from the Society of Women Engineers.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Rosalba Santana and Anna Avalar, who will present from the LADWP chapter of Society of Women Engineers. This month marks their 5th anniversary since the chapter was started here at DWP. So,
It's been that
ladies,
long.
wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. I'm Rosalba Santana, Civil Engineering Associate in Water Distribution and current president of the LADWP Society of Women Engineers affiliate group. I'm here with Anna Avalar, who is the SWE Vice President representing the water system. We are here to do our annual report. Blanca Herrera, our Vice President representing Power, could not be here today. She's on maternity leave, awaiting the arrival of her baby girl. However, she's listening, and we want to acknowledge her for helping us prepare for this presentation. We are very pleased to be here today to report to you on the achievements and the progress of the organization as we celebrate Women's History Month and the 5th year anniversary of the organization. LADWP's SWE mission is to provide members with support to accomplish their full potential. We strive to promote women in STEM, engineering, and all other fields, and through our efforts intend to mitigate the gender disparities and help build a more diverse and inclusive workforce. The Society of Women Engineers was founded on March of 2018. I want to highlight that SWE is the first professional resource group here founded at the department. The leadership and the vision of 5 extraordinary women and the firm support of 100 charter members are the reason why we stand here today before you. I want to thank these women for creating an organization that empowers us, helps us connect, and learn from each other. Their efforts are an invaluable contribution to the department. I also want to thank the LADWP's executive leadership for their support at the inception and throughout. We wouldn't be able to continue to serve our members and the community if it wasn't for the patronage of the board, the DEI office, and the executive leadership of the different systems. SWE today is 249 members strong. It is comprised of 131 members from the water system, 90 members from the power system, and 37 members from the joint system. Our membership represents multiple work classifications, and I also want to acknowledge that we have 71 male members, and I want to thank them for being our allies and supporters to the cause. And actually, many of them are executive leaders in the different systems of the department.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Anna Avalar. I am a Civil Engineering Associate in the Water Engineering and Technical Services Division, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you our current Board of Directors. These ladies have volunteered their free time, often giving up many of their lunches and even some evenings to help SWE put together the events that we do for our members. Rosalba Santana is our current president and my co-presenter today. Leah Mulad is our past president, and we want to thank her for all the continued guidance that she has provided for us. The third photo there is myself. I am the current VP for the water system, and Blanca Herrera is the current VP for the power system, and we want to wish her the best as she awaits the arrival of her baby girl. Fabiola Perez is our secretary, Elise Pruet is our treasurer, Ashley Hogan is our operations chair, Alex Heronilla and Noemi Rangel oversee education, Cynthia Codeverdian and Tatiana Lerma are our membership chairs, Clarice Parasinge and Tanya Chavez oversee communications, Irma Lizama Kumar and Julianne Berg are our outreach chairs, Chloe Garrios and Ani Sarkisian are our social chairs. And I want to recognize the group sitting behind me to the left and just give them a special shout out. Without all of these ladies, SWE could not put together the events that we do for our members, so they deserve a special recognition. I also want to highlight Julianne Berg, who works out of Bishop. She has stepped up to help SWE expand our presence up north, and she has helped us recruit additional members from the Bishop area. And she also has taken the initiative to help put together events up north that mirror the events that we're holding down south in here. So thank you all. I also want to thank our executive advisors, Nermina Rusick-O'Neill and Heidi Hirioka. They serve as our management advocates, and without their continued support and guidance, we would not be where we are today.
SWE's mission is sustained on 3 foundational pillars: support, transform, and recruitment. We support our membership by providing them with educational opportunities for professional and personal development, membership, and interview preparation for career advancement. Also, SWE is strongly invested in outreach, which we believe will help narrow the gap representation of women and minorities in engineering and STEM. On a regular basis, our members volunteer to do outreach activities at local schools for students in K through 12. We're also very proud to share that we are partnering with Gala, which is an all-girls public school that focuses on STEM. The partnership is quite fitting for our values, and what we believe in. And we are very excited to help mentor, give exposure, and spark interest to these young ladies, and hopefully have them pursue engineering and STEM careers in the future. Thirdly, SWE partners with recruitment to bring intelligent, professional female engineers to the department. We assist recruitment efforts at our national and local conferences, also by attending events at universities and career fairs.
The new board of directors was elected in July of last year, and we've hit the ground running, adapting to our current hybrid work environment. We put together educational presentations. We selected 3 of the SWE National 2022 presentations to broadcast to all of our members, as we could not send them all to Houston. After a long hiatus, we put together in-person events to help our members interact with each other socially. Our Members Appreciation Lunch was in early December 2022 here at JFB. In terms of professional development, we've partnered with the recruitment office to help staff our booth at the 2022 National Conference in Houston, Texas. You can find Rosalba and I and a few other of our board members in the photo over on the right-hand side towards the middle. And this year, we've encouraged all of our members to submit abstracts to be potentially selected as speakers at the 2023 National Conference, which will take place here in Los Angeles. We've submitted a total of 17 abstracts for consideration. And lastly, through our partnership with Gala, we've helped coordinate 2 field trips for their students so far. The photo on the top right-hand side of the screen is at the filtration plant with 55 seniors from Gala's AP Environmental Science class, and our very own outreach chair, Irma Lisama Kumar, standing in the front row left. In January 2023, we launched our full-scale mentoring program. I want to highlight the mentors you see on screen there. Aside from their day-to-day obligations and their supervisory responsibilities, they've stepped up to volunteer at a minimum 1 hour of their time each month. The program will have a 1-year duration, and each month, the mentees will initiate a meeting with their mentors and bring up the topics for that month. The mentors will listen to the mentees and help advise and provide lessons learned throughout their career.
So last October, we attended the SWE National Conference in Houston. Participation at the SWE conference is really something unique. It's very special to see 16,000 women gather in one place for STEM and engineering. It really fills us with hope. During the conference, we conducted recruitment, SWE member staff LADWP's recruitment booth. We gave information to interested candidates. We also conducted on-site interviews over the 2-day duration of the career fair, and we estimate that about 300 conference attendees stopped at our booth. The conference provided also members that attended with a platform to network with other professionals in the field, also attend workshops to enhance their skills, gain inspiration for their own work, and the opportunity to exchange ideas with peers, and also hear from keynote speakers on leadership advice. Participation at the conference also gave the department the opportunity to build brand awareness amongst the participants. We were there side by side with top employers who are hiring STEM and engineering professionals. Also, I'm very proud to share that at the SWE conference, we had two speakers, our own Evelyn Cortez Davis and our past president, Leah Mulad. Evelyn's session was a creative take on leadership lessons from women in Star Wars, and Leah's session focused on transforming what could be perceived as a negative into a strength based on her personal experience as a triple minority. I want to emphasize that both sessions were a hit. We had attendees come to our booth because they wanted to get autographs from Evelyn. It was quite amazing. This year, as Anna mentioned earlier, we conducted informational sessions and workshops to motivate our members to submit abstracts, and we're looking forward to the selection and seeing them as speakers at the conference. So this year, SWE 23 National Conference is happening here at the LA Convention Center. It will be October 26th through the 28th, and we have a very unique opportunity SWE is strongly committed to have a strong presence there. This year's theme is Live Without Limits, and we certainly want to showcase LADWP and attract talent to live their career at LADWP without limits. We're actively planning our participation at the conference. We're working closely with recruitment and public communications on the design of our recruitment booth. We also want to host a hospitality suite that it's going to provide interested conference participants with information, the opportunity to talk to our female leaders, and learn what it is to work here at the department. We're also in the process of submitting applications to be considered to host tours. If selected, this is going to provide an opportunity to highlight the unique and exciting work that is happening both in water and power. We also want to assure that our members have an opportunity to attend and get the benefits of the conference. So we're working on a sponsorship to pay for their registrations. In addition, we're looking to sponsor gala students to attend the conference on Saturday. This day is focused on activities that it's geared to high school students, and we want to be able to provide that to the girls. Lastly, we're exploring sponsorship opportunities that are going to give the department brand visibility and help familiarize and attract potential recruits.
I'm excited that I get to tell you about what we have in store for the future. We aim to continue our professional development through our continued WebEx series, and we're currently exploring in-person events at various locations. We're planning on instituting a peer networking program where current members would be paired with members in a similar stage of their career, with the goal of exposing our members to other potential career paths here within the department. We plan to continue participating in the Future Green Leader Summit Expo, which took place just a few weeks ago on March 15th. We had a great turnout, and I want to thank the volunteers from the power system who helped staff our booth. As Rosalba touched upon, we're partnering with Gala, and we hope to establish a SWE Next chapter for the high school students could benefit from. We plan on also hosting a Science Day for employees' children to get the seed of STEM planted in their minds so they could potentially pursue a career in STEM in the future. And we're currently working with our recruitment office to help put together a video which will showcase all the amazing work that our members currently contribute towards. We hope to expand the number of LADWP SWE members here at JFB and at all the other locations. And we're committed to having a strong presence at the upcoming national and at local conferences to support efforts from the recruitment office and to bring in the best talent from the industry to work here at the department with us.
Well, honorable board members, it was a pleasure to present to you today. And before we depart, we also want to show your appreciation to your leadership by making you honorary members of the Society of Women Engineers. We feel inspired and uplifted to have a 5-woman board of commissioners. Your leadership serves the entire department, but more importantly, the women in the department. By virtue of being a woman, you have a greater understanding for the challenges that women face in the workplace, and you have the opportunity to implement policies to remove those barriers. Please accept your honorary nomination as a symbol of our partnership in your initiatives of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to say that was a fabulous presentation. You know, I know how hard you guys work, and this is volunteer work, and I was happy to see that on your mentors, you had a lot of men too. So, you know, when you have a women's organization, yes, it's to support women, but I think that, you know, I'm happy to see that men are involved as well. So, you know, I just want to thank the team. I want to thank your founders, and, you know, keep up the good work. That was marvelous.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would just echo that fantastic presentation and amazing work. I was at that Future Green Leaders Summit with a different hat on, and really inspiring to see the next generation of 1,800 middle schoolers from LAUSD getting inspired by your team and others who were there. So yeah, thank you for everything you do, and it would of course be an honor to join as an honorary member. So really appreciate, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I too want to say thank you for your work, but also to acknowledge the role that the department has in continuing to support and aligning our efforts with the opportunities that are identified by our employees. I think that the upcoming national conference provides an enormous opportunity for the department to both amplify its role in the industry and its brand, and to recruit, to expand our recruiting opportunities. I mean, the unfortunate reality is that we are seriously underrepresented here at DWP in terms of women, and to the extent that we have these incredibly talented employees with enormous responsibility in their day job, taking on the added burden or the added opportunity of sharing, promoting, reaching out, partnering. We want to make sure that we are backing them up and partnering with them. I would hope to see a very strong representation of this department at the conference in Los Angeles. It's right down the street, so no big travel involved. And certainly hospitality seems to make sense. I also want to commend you for your reaching out to Gala. For those of you who were at their luncheon or breakfast last week, it's really remarkable to see so many empowered young girls pursuing educations in STEM, and they do represent both the promise and the opportunity that we have to see our world be different, 20 years from now than the world that we inhabited. I'm reminded of my mother-in-law, who's 96 years old, was a PhD in mathematics.
Wow.
And when people seem impressed by that, she laments that when she was an undergraduate, women were discouraged from getting PhDs in chemistry, which is what she actually wanted to pursue. So the march toward equity and the march toward full participation of women in these professions has been going on for a very long time, and you are all tremendous standard bearers. So I, again, look forward to seeing how effective we are as a department in making sure that the tools and the access to resources and the support that is needed to accelerate the work that's being done by the women of this department is in place, and to see the results. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
We will move to our next presentation, or next report, from the Office of Corporate Health and Safety.
So Nazir Fazli, who's our Director of Corporate Health and Safety, will present this with his team.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to allow us to present a corporate health and safety report today. My name is Nazir Fazli, Chief Safety Officer, and with me today we have Mark Hendon. Mark is a Risk Manager, Manager of Corporate Safety, and Dan Ashelman, and he is Assistant Director of Corporate Health and Safety. Next slide, please. Office of Corporate Health and Safety was established when corporate safety, along with occupational health services and workers' compensation, were moved under the umbrella, under one organizational umbrella in November of 2021. Currently, Office of Corporate Health and Safety is comprised of corporate safety, occupational health services, system safety, workers' compensation, and resource office. Today's presentation, we will cover the close coordination and collaboration of these groups towards improving DWP safety performance, safety culture, reducing injury rates, and taking care of our injured employees when injuries occur on the job, and assisting them to return back to work as safely and as quickly as possible. With that, I will turn it over to Mark, and I will be available for any questions that you may have. Mark?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to present corporate health and safety's initiatives, and we really appreciate the board's support. So to start off with corporate health and safety, we are comprised of a dedicated team of safety engineers, industrial hygienists, and administrative staff, and we take an enterprise-wide perspective in our anticipation, evaluation, and control of operational risks in the company. And everything that you see here on this list can be organizationally structured within 3 key focus areas. 1 is training and field operations, 2 is policies and programs, and 3 would be audits and regulatory compliance. So number 1, going back to training and field operations, you can see here that we provide in-house training and vendor-provided training. We adapt to the needs of our operational partners by providing a mix of in-person, remote delivered, and computer-based training. Our fall protection and laboratory analytical services support key department initiatives, including our community solar program, home energy improvement, and routine outages. Normally around this time of year, we would be supporting water filtration's plant outage. We support both our construction crews and our water team members in the delivery of fall protection services, confined space entry, air monitoring, and hazardous material assessments. Second, the policies and programs. We are the custodian of the department's injury and illness prevention program. We manage its vehicle liability program and our safety management system initiative. Where we can, we embed these programs into existing operational processes and company initiatives. For example, our safety management system is being built into the department's enterprise resource plan. Our contractor safety program is now a fixture of supply chain procurement processes. And number 3, the audits and regulatory compliance. We represent the department during enforcement agency investigations and appeals, including Cal OSHA, the local public health departments, and the air quality management districts. And a key goal of this team is to be proactive in our inspections and our audits of operational practices. So you see here in this list that we respond to accident investigations and OSHA complaints. But ideally, we are proactive, not merely responding reactively to an incident or an investigation of a past event. To that end, it's important that we maintain key partnerships with our division safety and our operational partners that provide similar services. Here, I'd like to focus on an eye for the future. What I mean by that is everything that you see here, whether it's categorized as safety engineering or industrial hygiene, is an integral component of emerging issues, projects, and initiatives, whether it be evolving infrastructure, expanding energy conservation efforts, or new regulatory standards. On the safety side, a key emphasis for us is safety by design. In many cases, fall protection services, confined space entry risks can be mitigated early on in the design phase of our projects. We're working with our engineering, fleet, and procurement partners to ensure design standards are proactively anticipated. Those risks are proactively anticipated before we overly invest in a direction that becomes difficult to retreat from. So we recognize that there are pockets of areas in the department that are great at this, but our goal is to adopt these practices on an that are enterprise in scope. We see opportunity to engineer out many of our risks before exposing our employees unnecessarily. On the regulatory front, I would like to echo the concern, Madam Commissioner, that you stated about water and the snow, and what was frozen then melts, and what melts then dries. And so we are, while we celebrate the much-needed rain that we've recently experienced, we are keenly aware of its potential impact in the coming years when it dries. Today's rain is tomorrow's potential fuel for wildfires. There are stringent wildfire protection standards that are in place that we need to prepare for now. It's not something that we can mobilize in an instant. We need to prepare now. So with that, towards that end, we need to expand our efforts to monitor air quality indices, training for our field crews, respiratory protection, and potential need to include employees in medical surveillance in the future.
So you say we need to do this. Are we doing this?
We are doing it, but we need to expand. So we see.
Because I was going to, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but your team has, over the course of the last, I guess maybe 2 years now since we've been engaged in this dialogue, has been putting forward increasingly sophisticated and substantive, very well thought out measures to enhance corporate safety. And I very much appreciate that. My only, my real question goes to how rapidly we're actually bringing these things to scale.
Yes.
Because, I know how easy it is to get involved in the doing of the work and the crush of challenges that we face, whether it's storms or the need to replace aging infrastructure or the myriad of things that we confront, and sometimes that translates into risk mitigation taking a back seat. So I'm very interested in understanding the degree to which we are not only identifying what we should be doing, but putting those things to practice and driving them through the organization in a way that they are being rigorously attended to.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So yes, we have elements of each, we have practices in place that meet the elements that I just outlined. But to your point, it is scale. Scale is the key. There is work for us to do, to improve, to expand, and to, again, be proactive in that growth effort to make sure that this is not something that we're trying to mobilize as the wildfire occurs or we're in the season of wildfire. We need to be proactive and do it early on. So expanding our measures to monitor the air quality. There's also efforts in Cal OSHA to expand the stringency of those standards.
Let me ask the question differently. What is our current, how are we doing this work? How are we expanding this work? And in what is our time frame? You did make and I heard the observation that there are pockets within the department where this kind of, these practices, exist and seem to be rather routine, but there's work to be done elsewhere. So can you give me a sense of, and if not you, Marty or Aram, a sense of where we are in terms of embracing and expanding the work that corporate safety is moving forward? And I say this, with the realization that we have had 2 significant accidents in the span of, over a 3-week period. I mean, significant accidents, either one of which could have resulted in the death of an employee. And it is simply not acceptable to, after the fact, be, looking at what we could have done or should have done. And it's difficult for me to imagine that 2 accidents in a very short period of time is not indicative of some shortcoming.
I can comment. I think I think the conversation is how do we mature our programs? So the responsibility of making sure that these programs have consistent training, consistent procedures, and consistent reporting is what we are after. So this group, the corporate safety, is the core of our philosophy and what we believe in. And how do we expand these principles across the organization and keep consistency is something that we are changing organizationally as far as the alignment goes. So the two large systems, water and power systems, are getting more and more aligned in those. But there's a whole big group of corporate functions that we also have to address. So whether it's fleet, building maintenance, and other support services, supply chain, the statistics are kind of counterintuitive, because the groups that are that you would think that the injury rates should be low, but they're high because of some sort of a shortfall that we have. So Nazir sits right next to me every morning. We have these conversations about how can we close the gap, and we need to move forward. But your comments is one injury is one injury too much, and our philosophy is zero injury and zero near misses that we could injure employees. I mean, that's the goal that we have to reach, and then we have work to do, as Mark mentioned.
We do, yes. We are hiring, too, for this very effort as well. We do have much of the infrastructure in place, such as the training, the ability to provide.
So what you all know is that I'm going to transition very quickly from a conversation about philosophy and intention to one about timetables and metrics that we can use to be assured that this work is taking place. So if it is staffing, I'm going to want to know what a full staffing plan looks like, so I'll know if we're making progress getting there and by when. To the extent that there are organizational metrics that we are seeking to reduce, then we need to start benchmarking those things so that we can understand them. And on ARM, I'm happy that you mentioned other areas of the department outside of the things that sometimes jump out at us and seem most obvious. I'm also reminded that we have had security officers indicate concern about their personal safety and the execution of their jobs due to lack of adequate equipment. I am curious about how we are addressing any modifications needed to support women who are working in the field, because, typically, when we are thinking about equipment and things are being procured or built, the standard prototype is male. And as we are moving more women into these jobs, we need to be mindful of what it takes for them to do their work. And frankly, we have heard in conversations with women that they're kind of on their own to think about these issues and to kind of jerry-rig solutions. So I know I've jumped into the middle of the presentation, and as I say, your presentations are universally stellar in terms of identifying what best practices look like, and there's always clearly a lot of rigor that has gone into thinking through what our organization should be doing. But in an organization where we consistently say that worker safety is a priority for us, we've got to do more than say, we've got to do. And I am interested in seeing in a very clear way what we are doing to close the gap between where we know we should be and where we are, and how urgently we are moving toward closing that gap as we continue to put people in harm's way in terms of the work that they're called upon to do.
Absolutely, agreed. Thank you. Some of the topics that you brought up there in this presentation today, so we'll get more
I will let you go.
Into it. So speaking of metrics, our injury and illness metrics, what you see here in this slide right here, this is workers' comp payouts by claim year. So all of these bars right here on this bar graph all represent payouts in 2022. So it follows the life cycle of the claim. So what you see in 2018, for example, the incident occurred in 2018, but we paid this year. So in 2022, we paid roughly a little over $20 million in workers' compensation claims. So the $5 million in 2022 is roughly just a quarter of the payments for claims filed for what we paid out. So we manage a whole host of metrics, including our annual 300 logs, our 50/20 forms, serious injuries and fatalities. We look at trends. The payouts in 2022 is roughly about $2 million less than 2021. But that being said, our goal is to expand. These are reactive numbers. Our goal is to shift that focus, and that is the spirit of our safety management system platform. We have a contract that will be presented for board approval in the coming months, and will provide the infrastructure to be able to capture some of these proactive measures so that we're not just presenting reactive numbers in terms of costs.
So Mark, I do have questions on this one because I did review this ahead of time and I misread this chart because I interpreted this as that if you look at the graphs, the bars going up, it looked like we were spending more money on workers' comp now versus that we did in 2018. So, and you're saying that's not the case, that we're getting better. So explain this chart to me because I totally misread it.
Okay, I apologize. So in 2018, for example, there's an incident that occurred in 2018 that the payments are ongoing to this day. So in 2022, we paid out a little more than $900,000 for claims for incidents that occurred in 2018. So that dollar amount right there, that represents a payout in 2022.
Okay, so so 5.1 million in 2022, what does that number mean?
So those are payouts for incidents that happened in the year 2022.
So that looks like it's higher.
Yeah, so this graph would probably be similar each year. So every year the payouts, because we deal with this as well in our organization, every year you're going to end up with payouts that are related to the current year, and then you may also have some from prior years. And the prior years are always going to be smaller, but that's not necessarily indicative of where the injuries are going. And so I think for future presentations, it might be helpful to have like OSHA-related incidents by year, so you can give us that visual of how the incidents are shifting or the total payouts associated with that year, just because I do see why this would be a confusing image.
Okay, yes, we do track that. We do have our incidents, our injury rates, days away, restrictions, transfers, injuries. We also have metrics for our vehicle liability.
So is that number, or
yeah, I was going to say, so tell us, are we doing better or
Where
worse?
Is that number going?
I mean,
yeah.
it's not nice pictures and pretty presentations, but tell us.
Right, in terms of the payouts, the number is a little, in 2022, it's a little bit lower compared to 2021. So we have to keep watching that trend to see if that was, did we have an off year or a good year, or is 2023 going to be a better year, or is it going to be decreasing? So
what was the sort of trend prior to 2022? Was this increasing and this is the first dip, or have we been able to reduce over time?
For the most part, it's been steady. It's the same thing with our injury rates. We don't see a lot of variation. We do see that there are, by division, when we break down by division, their numbers tend to track pretty evenly. So you don't see spikes and improvements or, and a worsening of the injury rate in that particular environment. But that's something that we continuously track, and we can provide more detail in future presentations regarding those trends.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you.
We just want to provide a flavor of the variety of metrics that we provide. The vehicle liability that's mentioned there, we look at total accidents every year, and we monitor for what was preventable, what was not preventable. If it was preventable, was there an offense that was committed, such as speeding, unsafe lane change, and so forth? Security. We have many partners and organizations that provide services that supplement the overall safety effort of our company. That includes division safety, other organizations such as environmental affairs. But one of those key partners is security. Their presence is integral in protecting our employees, protecting our assets, and responding to unusual occurrence reports. Corporate safety does monitor the reports with an eye for the safety and welfare of our employees. And that being said, as was stated, there was an incident that occurred in February that was concerning. My understanding is that the intruder entered through the doors of an area that was not intended to be publicly accessible. And this person ended up in one of our restrooms where an employee encountered the intruder. So this is a very concerning incident. It highlights the importance of bolstering the safety and security of our employees. And you can see here a list that summarizes our increased security measures. But in the spirit of continuous improvement, we remain watchful to identify opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, it's interesting because the question that I had went to the safety and security of our security services or of security officers, not the people that they protect.
It's the next slide. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm now going to mine so I can jump ahead.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. I'm sorry. So, yes, we are very much concerned about the welfare of our employees as well. So the overarching theme that we wanted to relay to the board is the key policy. If an officer feels unsafe, they are empowered with the ability to pull back, to not apprehend, and to not engage. But that being said, there is a whole host of training.
What makes you think that?
This was reported from our security director, our interim security director.
Just saying that doesn't make it real. And it certainly is not a substitute for officers having the equipment and policy being like written down and clear about how they engage when they're alone in remote workplaces. And this is really, this is a really serious issue from my perspective. We can't just say we've got to do. So, I am not convinced that this organization, from a cultural perspective, supports employees saying, I don't feel safe, so I'm not going to do something. That is not my impression. My impression is otherwise, that people are encouraged to just get it done across a range of disciplines. And I think that we need to shift that.
Agreed. From what I know about the security services training, they're also trained in de-escalation techniques, self-defense, first aid, CPR, bloodborne pathogens for our facilities that store bulk chemical.
Have you assessed that training, or are you, again, relying on what you're told by security services?
Some of that training is provided by corporate health and safety. So that would be first aid, CPR, bloodborne pathogens, heat illness. So some of those are directly provided by corporate health and safety. And so that information represents a mix of what corporate health and safety directly provides and the information that we've been provided by security.
So Mark, let me go back to the first equipment, satellite radios for remote areas. So what you're telling me today is that in security, every security officer that's going to a remote area has a satellite radio?
No, I'm not saying that, but they are expanding their availability of a variety of communication devices to make sure that there is a continuous stream of communication between the officer and their supervision or the watch commander, but that is something that is still ongoing and that there are gaps that need to be filled.
So I need a timeline for that.
Yeah, because really, we're talking about sending individuals into situations where they may be asked to specifically encounter people, a person or multiple persons, where they may or may not have contact with DWP employee or help. And I don't understand. From my perspective, that is a serious corporate safety issue. And it is, sort of the job of corporate safety to be both skeptical and aggressive as it relates to making sure that employees have what they need to do their jobs across the organization. And I don't know, we heard this matter in the context of a grievance, but I don't know how long this has been the case. It concerns me that it has not yet been remedied. And there comes a point where if it can't be remedied, you're going to have to pull back on what you expect of an employee. I mean, you certainly can't expect an employee to engage with third parties in remote areas alone and unable to contact anybody. So in my mind, that would be the policy shift. You either provide the equipment or you stop the activity. But you can't simply say we have a gap and we're working on it. Sir.
Yes, may I answer your questions? Satellite radios, we ordered a dozen 2 weeks ago. They're on the way in. Once those get there, our officers that are reporting to remote locations will check those out from the watch commander and take those with them. And every shift, they'll rotate, taking those radios with them. We only ordered 12 because we don't go out to the remote locations very often. Most of our officers are stationed in Basin. We do have officers stationed at Lone Pine. They already have satellite radios. They've had those satellite phones, I should say, for the last 8 to 10 years. So we do have one that can communicate from our remote location. Also, written a policy that I sent to Labor Relations to review for responding to remote locations. So that should be sent out to our troops probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks once it's finalized.
So if I understand this, so the supervisors will have the satellite radios, and when they ask someone to go to a remote location, then that person will be given one as they're going.
They'll check it out at the beginning of their watch. There'll be 10. So we usually have 2 or 3 patrols per shift. So each supervisor will check out a satellite radio and then check it back in. When the next shift comes in, they'll have radios available if the officers have not returned. So we have redundancy and availability of radios, or satellite phones, I should say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So the final part of my presentation just regards completing the circle here with corporate health and safety is our COVID resource office efforts. Kalos had just implemented their non-emergency COVID standard. It'll sunset in 2 years. So the COVID resource office will be instrumental in the next 2 years with our contact tracing efforts and relaying information to our divisions in the event that there's a potential work-related exposure. So this is the paradigm that we can expect for the next couple of years. Control measures such as face coverings, physical distancing, self-screening, cleaning, and disinfection. Those are the menu of options that Kalos expects that we would implement in the event of need, but otherwise they're not required on an indefinite basis. And so with that, I'd like to hand the floor over to Dan, who'll go over our system safety effort.
Thank you, Mark. And yeah, I'm Dan Ashelman, as Nazir introduced, and I just appreciate this opportunity to present to this board and just want to, while sometimes it's uncomfortable to be in the hot seat, what it represents to me and to the workers that we represent in the field is that this Board of Commissioners and this leadership team has an unwavering support for safety of our employees. So thank you for that. So pivoting into the next part of this, it's system safety. That is a group that is primarily made up of people who come from the craft, different levels of the field organizations, and they are brought together in these system safety groups and are subject matter experts in the work that they do. And you can see here from this slide, many of the things they do is they're conducting crew visits. They're out there actively engaging with our field workers. They're developing and conducting safety meetings. Much of that content is from some of the incidents that you mentioned where our employees are injured and we need to learn from those, not just talk about it, but truly learn from those. And to say that we've done that and learned, we need to be able to prevent reoccurrence. That is the ultimate goal. One of the other areas that they work on is injury reduction strategies. And this is just a little bit of a shift from for us. We'll get into more detail on this in some subsequent slides, but really it's an opportunity for us to not so much tell workers what they need to do to be safe, but rather listen. So it's more of a conversational approach. We sit down, we bring the workers who are currently exposed to these hazards in a very structured way with metrics of using lagging metrics of past injuries and talk about specific injuries that occurred to this group of workers and ask them about what the context of their work and to understand what they do and to include them in the solution process. So that's another key strategy that we work on out of this group. The next slide, oh, that's me, okay. All right, so this is just a slide to talk about the safety system consolidation. This has just been an important new move for us. Mr. Benjamin has taken a major step forward in aligning our power system safety and water system safety groups under one centralized reporting structure. We're working towards adding a future joint system safety, so this is one of the growth opportunities that we do have and look forward and need it sooner than later. But yeah, this is a great opportunity for us. In the past, we've had safety silos throughout the department. I think those type of things exist in any organization. The bigger and more complex, probably the more you find those silos. But we're seeing with this centralized reporting structure, we're better together. We are able to find solutions and work through those together and learn corporately. So we just see that we learn more effectively as an organization as we have this and we're able to share and not have to reinvent the wheel like was mentioned earlier. So, and share those enterprise-wide. So this is just kind of, you can kind of look at this slide almost like a timeline. So should an injury occur out in the field, this kind of shows some of the interaction between the groups. So starting with an injury or accident, should something like that occur, system safety is generally the group that is first to respond at the scene. They're out there assisting the division or the organization in making the area safe. They're starting the chain of communication that has to flow out of this. Coordination starts immediately, even with corporate health and safety, where they sometimes are out at the scene, especially when we have an outside agency like Cal OSHA show up on scene just to facilitate that conversation. Updates on just the real-time information that's happening starts to be shared across our organization with our labor partners. And the system safety groups are also usually the front line for instigating, or not instigating, but implementing the downed worker program, which is really there to support employees and their families. And just to give that a little bit of a plug, that is employee funded. That just, I think in my mind, it highlights the family atmosphere that we have here. The employees care for other employees and that they're willing to support that with their pocketbooks. So that's an important program that we have, and it's there to really facilitate the family so that they can be focused on the recovery of their loved ones. So. Then moving across, as they're there on the scene, they're gathering information, and then starts the incident learning, which is a shift for us from the investigation type of what we're looking to blame and try to point fingers, and more what can we as an organization do to improve? What can we understand about the context that we may have not understood before from talking to the employees, talking with their peers, and gathering that information. And one of this happens with a group of people. Our labor partners are there, co-workers are there, management is there. All the relevant parties are represented there. The pertinent parties are represented there to have their input in that. And then the output from those type of incident learning communications really is recommendations. What can we do to improve employees' safety? What can we do to prevent reoccurrence? That is the ultimate goal. And then we work very closely with the divisions and with labor to implement those divisions, those recommendations. So that kind of just is a brief overlook at the timeline of how we respond as a group and an organization through an incident. Next slide. This one talks about the safety culture perception survey. It's been since 2017 since we've done one of these. I think COVID kind of put a little break in that. Hopefully we don't have that long of a time frame to understand our employees' perception of the safety culture in which they show up to work in every day. This was done in close collaboration with the JSTI, the Joint Safety and Training Institute. They were just integral partners in this. And looking at this slide, it's a little bit of a graph, but I'll back up a minute and just say this. On this perception survey, almost 6,000 of our employees voiced their opinions, gave their perceptions of how safety is for them, and shared their comments, which is very meaningful. They took the time to actually write comments there and add those for us to review. So looking at this slide, you see along the left injury rates, and then it moves along and kind of gives a graph that shows a culture. So in almost all companies, there's a direct correlation between the two, depending on where you're at in your culture and how progressive you are in having a good, strong safety culture. That directly correlates to injury rates. And so we're no different, right? There is a correlation there. And there's what you've highlighted, there's a lot of room for improvement for us. So there's work to be done to this end. So right now we're in kind of working through the results of these comments and data to understand where we are and where we want to be. And then it's going to pivot into strategic planning where we're collaborating with leadership, our employees, our labor partners, and safety to develop a roadmap of how we intend to improve the safety culture. There's a lot of data that was collected out of this. This was a company that was brought in with JSTI to help us review this, and there's a lot of metrics that we received from our employees' input. So I think there's a lot for us to sift through, but it's an exciting time, and we see it as an opportunity. A survey like this is one of our leading metrics. These are the things that we like. It's before, we're not reacting to an injury, rather we're trying to understand the situation and come up with a way to prevent injury going forward and improve our safety culture.
I'm not sure what this slide is supposed to be communicating.
So looking at injury rates, along the left side, the higher up, that would represent the higher injury rates. And then moving along that, it represents the different cultures where reactive, dependent are kind of more into the compliance-based culture, like we follow the rules really well. And then that cultural bridge in the center is kind of the tough spot, the hump for a lot of companies to get over. I will share that that's a bridge we have to get over. The detail from this maybe could be shared in a subsequent presentation to the board to share where we're at, but we're not over into the commitment culture phase, which is more when the employees start to internalize their safety and internalize it and are watching out for each other.
So you would say, just based on your initial analysis, I mean, you can come back and report in more detail that we fall more in the compliance culture than the commitment culture. Gotcha. And I assume that as this sort of transition over, because you have, what I'm trying to understand is where you have injury rates, you have this downward slope. Does that correlate to anything, or does that correlate to what you would expect as you move from compliance to commitment?
It does. So this is
the model, right? This is not LADWP data. So I think this is like the idea behind the model of, that injury rates should go down as we transition to a commitment culture. So we would love to see the results of that survey at a future meeting. It sounds like you're developing some actions based on it, which is really good, and we'd love to hear that plan. I'll also say, I don't know if you've done any benchmarking, but knowing that a lot of these environments and jobs are very challenging and there's understandably risk involved, I'd be interested to see where our injury rates are and where our culture is as compared to other utilities, maybe water for water, power for power. There's got to be data out there, and I'd be interested in that benchmarking if it's taken place, or if it hasn't. It'd be good to look at, how do our injury rates compare to people in similar jobs in other organizations.
Right, because this slide looks very academic to me. And so, 6,000 people responding is a lot. So I want to know, out of those 6,000 people, do they feel safe in their job? And if they don't, how can we improve that? Yeah. But I like Commissioner Katz's idea about also doing benchmarking, because this is dangerous work. We acknowledge that, and as a board, safety is a priority for us. So, less academic and more kind of like, in the weeds, and that you just said that will come in the future.
But you were saying that based on what you've seen, we've got a lot of growth opportunity, both in reality and also as reflected by the survey that you did.
Yes, so.
Okay.
And this slide, although it is academic, was provided to us by the group that put the survey together for us, and this does represent some level of benchmarking. This graph was developed by their working with thousands of companies and working also with utility companies in specific. So when we're plotted on this, we do have that opportunity, and that will surely come out in a more detailed presentation where you can see where we land. And there's also opportunity to break this down in a more granular way where we can look at specific groups within the department and understand where they land, because there is a spectrum there, but for the most part, we're on the wrong side of the cultural bridge at this point.
Yeah, and it'd be helpful to know if there are, with this company you're working with, if they can provide any best practices. Are there utility companies that are on the other side of that bridge, and what have been their practices that have helped lead there? It sounds like that's what they're working on, so we look forward to hearing about that.
Absolutely.
Good start.
Yeah, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll transition into some of the other groups that are within the umbrella of corporate health and safety. This is talking about our occupational health and safety group, which is led by Dr. Israel. She's our chief physician. She has a staff of 20 administrative and medical personnel there. Their main function, their primary function, is really to triage, evaluate, and treat occupational injuries and illnesses. They perform medical evaluations for new hires and our commercial drivers. Some of our employees fall into those categories. They administer the OSHA medical surveillance programs, which is important and highlights even to some of the things that Mark brought up, where we expose our employees to hazards. They need to be medically fit and cleared to do so, to do the things that we're asking them to do. And her group helps significantly in that way. They also evaluate employees when there's suspicion of drug or alcohol impairment on the job, and support LADWP policies and protocols. They review and verify medical notes for absence due to chronic conditions or connections with a prior disability, and they work with the divisions to make sure that these employees are placed in appropriate work environments. And they're responsible for the safekeeping of our employees' confidential medical records, which we're required to have, but that is the warehouse for all those records. Next slide. So looking at this is just a, sorry, we went backwards. We're right here.
Gentlemen, we're going to break in just in
Okay.
10 minutes. This has been going on for a while.
Sure,
And we
yeah.
can read the slides, so.
Okay, so I'll get through this. This is just to sum this up. This is an injury prevention model. It kind of, you can see the main headings of data collection, data analysis, and prevention strategy. We use this to really essentially digest this information and then coordinate with the division. So it's using a lot of metrics, data, both leading and lagging indicators, digest that information and work with divisions in the management to prevent injuries. So this is kind of a way that we're converting from being reactive to proactive and using leading and lagging information to directly prevent injuries. Next slide. What we have here is just the injury prevention synergy. This is the group as a whole, everything that exists under the umbrella of the Office of Corporate Health and Safety, and really shows the interactions between the group and really the synergy that's created by all these groups working together. They're directly involved in employee care, both before, during, and after an incident. This is most effective under a centralized umbrella as we have it now, and we hope to see that expand and grow to improve this, but this really fosters that interaction between the groups. So on the one side, you see the leading indicators. Those are, again, like we pointed out, those are the things that really we're trying to mobilize and use that information before something actually occurs. And then on the other side of this, we see lagging, and that's really not how we want to be making decisions, but that's rather a way for us to measure how effective, how well are we doing our work. So that's more of a tool for us to check ourselves. And finally, let's end here with the Office of Corporate Health and Safety goals. This slide shows where we are now and our goals going forward. And just starting with injury reduction, we talked a little bit about that, but that's where we're taking a close look at all of our injuries. We're talking with our employees. We're partnering with them to develop the prevention strategies. And again, like I said, this is done in more of a focused way. What's represented here is the 5 divisions of the department that have the highest rate of injury, and that's where we're really focusing at this point. We hope to see this expand into every division. But this is where we really leverage that information from our employees and include them in the process. Moving over to strategic planning, in the center it shows really some of the initiatives where we've grown and hope to grow with the addition of the joint safety. And we're hoping to see some alignment of programs like Mark elaborated on with Safety by Design, to see that be a holistic kind of a department-wide initiative where it's happening very well in some groups, and we just hope to spread the good stuff around for sure. Contractor safety, we need to take a little closer look at how we view our contractors and the safety, and especially the touch points where our contractors interact with our employees. That's been a touch point in the past, and we want to do a better job there. And we want to be able to share these successes across all the points of business. Again, we don't want the silos to exist. We want to be able to improve communication. Improvements to our safety management system, like Mark had mentioned earlier, we need to see this software come on board. We're at the end of the procurement process, but this is going to integrate with what we already have, so that we can get real-time data and use that data in a more effective way, and that can be more broadly shared throughout the enterprise, and we can learn from it. Let me just wrap up here, I think, with just a comment. We at Safety strongly believe, it's been mentioned here, that every injury is preventable. This is somewhere we need to go moving forward. That needs to be part of the fabric of our culture. We aim to investigate and look at and learn from every incident with that end to prevent it, and we want that to be part of what our employees actually believe.
Just a really quick question. Where you have the injury reduction, you have numbers in each of those boxes. What do those numbers represent?
Those numbers represent the actual recordable injuries that we record on an OSHA 300 log. So those are injuries that were significant enough to go beyond first aid that we had to record in that log.
And is that over what time frame?
That is over a year. So that is last year.
More injuries in water distribution than power transmission distribution? That's surprising. Okay.
You may recall a previous presentation, when they first analyzed this, they looked at the 5 places that were the highest injuries, and so they did focus programs with the divisions to try to look at exactly what was getting injured and how to attack that to bring the numbers down.
Top 5?
Those are the top 5 that they specifically targeted with the program.
And one of them has actually moved off the top 5 and been replaced. So they've been effective. Their management has engaged with their employees, and it's shown in the reduction of injuries.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So these are the number of injuries. You have 18.2. What's the 0.2?
So that's a rate. It's a total recordable injury rate, and it represents kind of an industry standard that it assumes how much injuries we'll have per 100 employees. And it's used to compare or benchmark with other groups.
Oh, so those are
So those are rates.
Those are rates, yes. Those are not actual injuries. Yeah, that's why, yeah. There's not 0.2 of an injury there. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. Yeah, that's a rate.
Okay, thank
But
you.
it's a benchmarking rate that's used, industry-wide.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
I'd like to put the meeting in recess. I've got a hard out at 2:30, and if any of us leave, we have no commission board meeting. So if we could take 15 minutes for recess, and also give people a chance to grab at least a bite of their lunch if necessary, that would be great. So we'll be back at 12:15.
We have 2 more presentations.
Yep. Plus closed session.
It'll be just a moment. Please bear with us.
Good afternoon, Madam President. We are recording.
President McCLAIN-HILL.
Present.
Vice President Ruiz.
Present.
3 board members, a quorum is present.
All right, so we will move to item 3 in the management reports on information technology services.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I have with me today Rita Karani Carwile. She's one of my senior leadership members in IT, one of 5 women. So I want to give a shout out to my IT team for Women's Month because of out of the senior leadership in IT, there are 5 of us out of the 7. So they represent 85% of our organization, and there's many, many more within our organization that do incredible job. I mean, literally yesterday I was complimenting a couple of them about some things that they put in over the weekend. So my thanks to all the women on my team. Without them, we would be probably worse off. I mean, they do a lot. I mean, really. So they can manage things better than us guys sometimes and everything else. But today, I know that we're going to give an overview of some of these major programs that are within IT that cross many of our divisions. So there's going to be others that may be supporting us as questions come up. Go to the next slide. I'm sorry. Okay. So what I've done here is to give you an overview is the project name, which I will give you some detail behind. I didn't want to clutter a slide here. The project health is based on a color code, okay? And unfortunately, I don't have a key in here, but I will tell you what the color codes represent. Green represents that both the project budget, schedule, and what am I missing? Scope are all on track. So if it's green, it's that way. It's yellow if any one of those have been missed, and it'll be red if there's any red in any one of those 3 categories. And then
I
the
have to
start
say
date.
that I like this format because I was reviewing it before the meeting, and I like it simple, a dashboard. I can see where the problems are, so I appreciate this.
And, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This actually comes from Louis Carr's originally working here before me, working with the previous board members to come up with this dashboard, so I give them a lot of credit on that. I do have detail if you ever need it associated with these that we can always deep dive in them. But I'll start off with LADWP SharePoint site. This is our intranet site associated with LADWP. This would be for internal use only between the different groups and divisions and individual customers, individual users of employees of the department. This particular program has started a while back. It's in yellow status because we're behind on our timeline for sure. This is a collaborative thing where we'll be using Microsoft's 365 SharePoint to put out the new divisional pages for all the different groups. We've had some successes with some pilots associated with the different groups. The Board of Commissioners and for Water and Power has been put out there. The Water System homepage, Water Executive Office, and Water Quality were all very successful. Those were put in last year. But since then, our team...
Just a quick question about the whole presentation. You've got a list of projects, some of which are more significant and or interdependent as it relates to programmatic activities we have than others. So I'm very curious to understand from a priority perspective in looking at this long list, and in particular in looking at the pieces that are red, what this represents. And I'm really curious if the project that is connected to, say, our smart grid is on this list, and how we would understand, sort of the mission critical IT projects that your office is working on as opposed to just a group of projects.
Okay. Let me answer your one question about the smart grid one. The distribution automation one is not on this list.
Isn't that pretty critical from a
Yeah,
mission
and
perspective
I
and a
will admit that
perspective?
that is a complete failure on my part. That should have been on here because that was on our list last time, and I can't believe that I forgot it because I was going through and checking them, and I'm like, oh, I think I got everything, and I obviously missed that one because that one is very critical to us, and we are working very closely with Simon P. Joyce groups to try and architect that properly.
You should have had Rita check it.
I should have, exactly, and I apologize about missing that, but I can give you a quick overview of that one. That one would definitely be in red status. That one
That's hugely problematic and concerning, and I guess the reason for this, the reason to understand these updates is because they bear direct relationship to the actual performance and operations of our business. And they also have serious budget implications because if we're not going to deploy something, then that has implications for our short-term and long-term budget planning. And so, we've got two new commissioners sitting here, so it's difficult for them to look at this and to understand how it integrates or layers on top of anything. So if you're saying that that's in the red, I think there's a lot more explanation to be done around that because it's not just in IT, it's standing up the IT in order to service.
That's correct.
A significant operation in power. So that's a huge thing that I'm going to want to understand more about. Not today, but soon, like in April.
I can work on that for you, absolutely.
In addition to that, when I look and I see, LADWP website redesign in red. And I mean, I've been on the board now 3 years, and it's been a priority item for 3 years. And so much of what we do is inhibited by that most public interface. It's just disturbing that we have yet to come up with a way of dealing with that. But when I move to the other pieces that are in red, so the contact center platform procurement, which is in yellow, I certainly want to understand that. But you've got some pieces here around that seem to relate to the ERB, which we've been told, the ERP, which we have been told is like foundational to huge systems transformations at the department, and they're red and yellow. So I need to understand that.
Absolutely. Would you like me to just focus on those ones right now because of the time crunch? Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so I'll start with the contact center platform. So the IVR stands for Integrated Voice Recorder. And what that is, it's the phone system by which the customer procurement team, the customer service division utilizes to communicate with our customers. It is antiquated. We realized that. It was realized when I first joined. People were talking about that this was needed to be replaced. I know that working with the CSD team, this has been an ongoing thing. We're currently in the process of reviewing the RFP responses to replace that system right now. So there was a number of responses associated with this particular program. And out of that program, the procurement should be completed. It looks like we're saying November at this point in time, but I've heard just recently an update this morning from my team that may be coming in. It may be earlier for the development of, then we can move to the next step once it's been decided, and it would need to come to the board to present to them, present to all of you that, hey, this is the system that we have chosen to move forward with. Now, this system is unique in that it will just make our old system look like something from the Stone Age. This will be a unique system that will integrate multiple systems across things so that the customer service reps can have access, real-time access to the customer's information as they call in so they can help them with either, billing issues or setting up some type of a service necessary for either maybe turning on their service, or turning off their services, or maybe repairs that may need to be done.
So they don't have access to that information now?
They do, but it's in multiple systems. So what it's the fact that they may have to log into another system to get it. Even though it's there, it's present, but it's time consuming. This will be a one.
These are the challenges that we have. And I mean, we look at the work that our employees are doing in order to meet certain timelines and metrics or to deliver service to our customers. They are significantly hampered by antiquated technology. CSD has long been looking for updates that will allow them to better integrate information and data so that they can more, in a much more timely and comprehensive way, serve our customers. So I think that I always get concerned when, I have one person presenting to me and they start talking about what's happening someplace else. So, procurement's doing this, that, or a third thing, only because I think as an organization, we have got to identify what our priorities are and lean in from every single touch point so that they get achieved. It can't be critical for CSD and business as usual for procurement, or low on the list for IT. And I'm not saying any of those things are true, except I know it's critical for CSD. But
it's foundational for the entire department. This is
and it's in
customers number one.
And it's in yellow.
Yeah, it is. I will tell you that we realize that we're running late on the procurement of identifying who to go forward with. So the IT team did something in the behind because the system that we are currently working on was becoming antiquated, as you mentioned. And so we upgraded that because we know that to put this system in properly, we were worried that we could have a system that might crash or cause an outage in the fact of having an IVR. So my team went ahead with the fact that we knew we were behind schedule with the development of the new contact center. We upgraded the current system so that we can at least feel comfortable that it will last as an interim solution until we get the new contact center in. And you mentioned, Madam President, about the fact that, hey, we have all these processes, and this is another thing, it's just up on the top, I'll only mention it for a moment here. Actually, it's process mining. We're working with IBM along with CSD to come in and evaluate the 300 plus processes, and I'm probably incorrect about the number. George Raphael could probably correct me. It might be even larger than that. And we're analyzing them with data to say how we can become better in our process efficiency of optimizing what we do and everything else. And we're using new technology from IBM around the AI perspective to actually investigate that and come up with better solutions. That will be part of the integration into other systems that we will move forward with. We've done a proof of concept right now. It's ongoing. We're in phase 2 of it, of 5 different systems. We're starting small to say, hey, what does this look like, to see if it'll actually work for us. And already the data that's been collected from it looks like there could be some really neat improvements that come out of this. We're really excited about the project. I know that George is as well, and we're looking forward to the outcome of this going forward.
And then we have the website, BRAD, and we don't even have an end date. So
let me explain that real quick. So the website is correct. We were ready to submit, and I remember Madam President talking about this a long time ago when I first joined. We put out an RFP. The RFP was ready to go forward. We were working with what we call the NOC, the Notice of Compliance with the Union, back in the August timeframe. I will have to validate that with some colleagues to make sure that is the correct date. And we worked with them for a period of time, and then it was finally released for consumption by bidders in the January timeframe. We received back multiple bidders, 2 actually. There was a third that was going to be in there, but they were disqualified because they originally came up with the requirements, so they had a unfair advantage over other vendors. And we excuse me, we have already had their presentations. We're reviewing them right now. I'm trying to remember the date. It was last week we actually had the presentations. We went through them, and now we're going to be evaluating and moving forward with it. So once we evaluate the presentations and come up with the winner of the RFP, we will then move forward with the procurement aspect and also present to you, who we've selected to put into the Drupal site.
So the ERP.
Yes, we can move to the next page. ERP. We'll focus on phase 2, 3, and phase 2 and 3, and I'm going to let Rita talk a little bit about that because she's
Let's
our.
focus on phases 2, 3, and 4, which is yellow.
Yes. So good morning or good afternoon,
I'm sorry,
Commissioners.
just the 2 red boxes and the yellow box. I see it's 2 and 3.
I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. So ERP, as you know, is our foundational back office system with multiple phases. So procurement, I think, will let it is not in green right now with some of the change in leadership in procurement. So we are actually going to be putting that on hold based on the request from the new director.
So then none of it's in green. We
Correct.
are just
yeah,
behind.
it was in green when we prepared the status. However,
No, I understand.
yeah, and so right now, phase 1, we are making sure that all of our users and our new director, of course, has to be comfortable with the strategic direction. So with that, I'll move to phase 2 and 3. Phase 2 is about the HR, payroll, and along with that, there are time capture, safety, incident reporting as a component of that, benefits. So there are about 10 streams in there. So Workday, when they came in and when they were selected, they recommended about 18, 19 months time frame. We knew that our systems currently and our processes are very decentralized and highly complex with a lot of interdependencies
But I
behind the
thought the
scenes.
goal was to move forward in a way that we did not replicate the
Yeah, that is the goal.
decentralized,
Yeah,
highly complex.
exactly. So untangling some of that, our concern was that untangling all those integrations because HR, which has the people component and the pay component, is a foundation to everything in the department. And then our phase 3, which is financials, has work orders and general ledger, which is, again, very, very critical and embedded throughout a lot of our systems. So we have resource issues. I think we have pointed out right from the start that a lot of the people who started these systems, we're like on 3rd, 4th generation of people. So, and there are very few people who understand the current systems. So a lot of the decisions and questions are going to them. And there were some unexpected operational items, such as retrofitting our current systems for COLAs, the new contracts that happened in October, November timeframe. So some of that delay is directly attributed to our team being pulled away to work on the cost of living.
Yeah, I just have to tell you that, and this, again, this kind of goes above your heads. This is a general senior management issue. We've got to make a decision about how important it is to get certain things done and then put the resources behind getting those done. If we keep spreading ourselves out in a way that we don't achieve the technological upgrades that we need, we're going to just spend an inordinate amount of time trapped in the old systems and the old processes. And, it's going to take much, much longer to get anywhere. The old systems continue to deteriorate. We continue to invest more in maintaining them. All the while, we're not making the transitions that we need to make, and it doesn't get easier the longer it takes. So doing a little bit of everything is not the path to success. We've got to make decisions about what we're going to achieve and get that thing done, which may mean that we're not going to get some other things done. And those are the choices that have to be both made and then adhered to, because the ERP being this behind is hugely troubling. Between ERP being behind and the smart grid work being not represented and behind,
Yeah, so I think what you're saying here is absolutely important, that the support from this group and our leadership is very critical to the success of ERP. So we want to make sure that So we're going to be asking for another year. We are working with our stakeholders, so Ann's team, our DEI team, who are key stakeholders. We are asking for, we've come up with a new proposed baseline with the contractor in order to implement by 2025. And we think that that's doable as long as, we continue to receive support on priorities.
At some point, somebody's got to be accountable for getting stuff complete, period. And in an environment where your efficiency and your competitiveness and your viability depended on your internal efficiency and getting stuff done, this would happen. And we can't, on the one hand, be the nation's largest municipal utility. And just by sheer scale, an enterprise as big as we are, and then on the other hand, act like we're a mom and pop operation that can't get it together and can't upgrade our technology. I mean, and it's nobody's responsible, and we just, we'll kick it down another year. This is just not acceptable. So what I'd like to see is I'd like to understand from a business perspective what it is we're trying to achieve and how it affects our operations. Because at the end of the day, all of this has implications for operations. And what the staffing plan is to get it done. I mean, we have a staffing plan for everything else, and we get stuff done all the time. We save the aqueduct. So, this is, we've got to pursue the work that the joint system is doing with the same level of urgency and diligence that we pursue the work that we're doing out in our fields. And the fact that everything that happens at joint has implications for what's going to happen or for what's happening for servicing the business units, the systems, that can't be lost either. So these are nice. The asterisks, the 2020, the asterisks, what do those mean?
So we have a new proposed baseline that we have presented to our executive committee. So that's what it indicates, that we're going to be shifting by a year, at least for HR and payroll phase 2, and then also the financials, whereas the procurement at this point is on hold till we have a better strategic alignment with the new executive management. So there's a lot of work, commissioners, that has gone on.
There's always a lot of work, but the point is there's no result.
On the contrary, we have gone through almost 50% of the project. We have completed over the last year, we implemented the new budget system. Maximo has a huge dependency, and so does the work management systems, and fleet have dependencies to tie in with the ERP. So we have made tremendous progress in upgrading those, so to bring everything up together. And some of our sister organizations also started before us, and they are experiencing similar delays because there are, this is not completely an IT project, right? There's a lot of involvement from HR, payroll, all the subject matter experts.
No, I understand that. Yep. And understand me when I say there's no result. Mm-hmm. In my mind, that is not that there's no progress. When I say there's no result, I mean we are not done. We're not finished, and we are not going to meet our finished date. So these systems aren't in operation. So lots of people are working.
Right.
But the benefits that both money that we're spending on the systems and, frankly, the money that we're spending on the salaries of all of the people that are working, those benefits aren't translating into results for our customers and for the citizens of LA. That's the bottom line. That's what a result is.
Right.
So we have got to get more focused on those results.
Yeah, we are.
And for me, my concern obviously is a website, because my perception is that's the number one touch point with our customers. And I go on the website all the time, and it's not easy to navigate. You know, it's not intuitive. So that's why I feel, for me, the website really should be a high priority. And I know we have a lot of stuff going on, and that's what the president said. Let's prioritize and put our efforts in certain things that we want to get done.
Right, yeah, my priority is the ERP. Mark has other assistant directors committed to the other ones.
We need to have the priority has to roll up to the organizational priority. It can't be, because IT can't make FSO do anything.
That's correct.
Right.
Right? So your priority is kind of irrelevant at a certain level. It has got to be, which is why I said it is a management issue. This organization has to determine what is necessary for it to function at the level that it, ought to be functioning for its customers. The smart grid has got to be a priority as it relates to what we've said we're going to deliver in terms of insight and information to our customers. So we've got to make some decisions about that. And then we have got to ensure that the appropriate resources, and that is staff time, is aligned to those priorities. Otherwise, we come in here, we talk, then everybody goes back to doing what they do, and nothing changes. And what's even worse for me, nothing changes, and we don't even hear about it unless we ask. So I've heard nothing about these projects being delayed, offline, who knows, nothing, which is hugely problematic as well. So I don't have any other questions, and the report is pretty clear on its face. Does anybody else have questions?
Not at this time.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we are committed to getting those projects done.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I believe that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And happy to learn that 5 is 7. It's a good ratio. All right. Mr. Wilbur.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. So by your request, I want to go through our after action report as related to the recent outages that we had. Make sure I can get this to work. So starting Friday, February 24th to Thursday, March 2nd, citizens of Los Angeles and surrounding areas went through a record-breaking storm, the likes of which that had not been seen in decades. Following nearly 9 inches of rain in January, an additional 7 inches of rain came in during the storm period, followed by 60 to 80 mile per hour winds. Our total outages were 211,279, about 13% of our customers. The customers restored within 24 hours was 137,000, around 65% of our customers of the outages that were restored. Our peak outage was 84,000, which is about 5%, occurring on Saturday around midnight. So I'll start up with the Owens Valley. In the Owens Valley, we had more than 2 feet of snow and high winds on the first day. We were able to utilize some of our track diggers to transport crews, poles, materials to inaccessible locations. We deployed around 20 transmission patrolmen. We pulled them up from Mojave, Victorville, and also our crews that are in Boulder, Nevada, and Delta, Utah, came down to assist with the restoration in Owens Valley. We had a total of 46 poles that came down in Owens Valley, 10 spans additionally of our 34.5 system, and 38 spans of our 4.8 system.
You're not Mr. Rodriguez, right?
No, I am not.
I just kept getting stuck on the first slide, Walter Rodriguez Jr., but okay.
So Walter's our director for power transmission and distribution. He was unable to be here today.
Okay.
So I'm filling in.
So you're pinch hitting?
So I'm pinch hitting, yes.
Okay, Brian.
So. Specifically in Basin, throughout the entirety of the storm, we had crews scheduled around the clock to respond to customer outages. We had a total of 119 crews on the first day, Friday, and averaged 102 crews per day after that first day. PTD management coordinated with our partners at IBEW, Local 18, to bring in a total of 7 contract line crews to augment our forces. The crews worked 16-hour shifts until the response level returned to normal on March 2nd. Initially, our outages were around 1,600 on that first wave of the storm. As soon as the wind kicked up, it increased to 84,000 in less than 12 hours. We also used 33 of our vegetation management crews comprised of utility line clearance tree trimmers, as well as 9 contract tree crews to help us combat the enormous number of trees. So some of our most affected communities, Delray had over 14,000 people out, Van Nuys 13,000, Valley Village 13, the Hollywood Hills an additional 12,000, Hollywood another 11,000, Valley Glen 7,000, Jefferson Park 7,000, Studio City 6,000, and Sun Valley 4,000. I think you can see from the pictures essentially what our main issue was, right? And that was the amount of trees that came down. We had a total of 72 trees. Major tree issues that came down. As you can see by the pictures, a lot of these, actually the majority of them are along the property lines, which made restorations efforts quite difficult. The water intrusion was the other issues that we had. Some of the biggest issues that we had specifically were in our distribution stations where we had water intrusion incidents that relayed some of the bus and affected 13,000 customers at DS39, an additional 17,000 at DS57, in Hancock Park, an additional 14,000 in Hancock Park at our distribution station there, and another 18,000 on our Hollywood distribution station 52. Now, essentially what the issue that I really wanted to bring forward here is really what we're, our after action plan. So this was the issues that happened there, but I wanted to go through some of the challenges that really came out. And then rather than go through essentially what we're going to do and what we're planning on doing, like I want to effectively go through what exactly what we're going to do right away. Okay.
It's okay.
We do have a lot of issues on here, right? And we have a draft of an after-action plan that has very specific metrics on it, responsible managers, right, and timelines on what we're looking to for long-term solutions to some of the issues that we had. But I'll try to focus really on the immediate things that we can do now to help us in the next storm and the next outage. So first is a strategic communication plan, right? Although our electric trouble and our construction operations divisions, they prepared well for this, they communicated with each other, but we failed to create a comprehensive system for identifying which individuals and entities should receive specific types of information and how that information should be distributed to internal and external customers. A communication plan needs to provide accurate and timely information to the public, reducing the likelihood of misinformation and rumors spreading.
And is that a plan that's developed by Power System?
Actually, it's through our Office of Emergency Management, right?
Okay, and how is that staffed? And is there an Office of Emergency Management for the department or for Power System? And
yeah, so it's through our security services group, right, that reports directly to Aram, and it's for the entire department.
okay, so in terms of developing a communications plan, you're saying that's through the Office of Emergency Management?
Right, so they actually head up our command structure. So when we go through an incident command structure, right, they are the first level
who
of
runs that?
Brian. Brian
Back here.
Lamb is, he's hiding here somewhere.
Brian Lamb, there he is, yeah. His boss, Alfred. Yeah. But Brian Lamb is our Office of Emergency Management. So anytime we have mutual aid, any of our, or send up a command structure, whether it's by the city, by the department, or even by one of the systems, right, it starts with Brian Lamb.
And does your command structure, I assume, include a PIU? And there are people from comms who are activated?
So we're closely, yes, with Joe Romalo's group in regards to PIO, also with the city's emergency management department. And if the county stood up, we would communicate through the city's emergency management department, through the state, through the city, county, and then through the state.
So in this particular situation, was the Office of Emergency Management stood up?
But the way it's structured in our office in the past before this incident, we were a conduit to support the systems. We weren't the one coordinating all the efforts.
So you weren't in command then?
Correct.
Right.
But you will be moving forward?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our command structure within our electric trouble system for most of our storms, right, is where we have our command structure. Moving forward, that's exactly what we want to look at is whether it's with the city, with the system, right, or with the department, right, running through putting that incident command structure forward, right.
So have we put one together, or are we still working on it?
So we have some comprehensive and some actionable items that we are moving forward with, right? So we have a draft of our action plan that we're still completing, right, with Brian Lamb and his Office of Emergency Management to move forward on this.
Is this on a slide? Because I'm just looking at a tree.
It's not.
I think we're out of sync, I think.
No.
No, this has been the day of presentations and concept, but not details.
So these are some of the challenges identified on the slide.
Okay.
So
The outage management system was a challenge?
I'm sorry?
Is outage management system, is that a challenge?
Yeah, that's
or an
something that
opportunity?
I'll move forward to right now. In addition to this, emergency planning and preparation, right? And that's during the emergency, the goal of our system is to restore power as quickly as possible, obvious, to the residentials and businesses of Los Angeles. The objectives of the power system's emergency planning and preparation include, right, number one is protection of this and safety of the public and the department employees. Right? And then next, having that framework to coordinate recovery and restoration efforts. And the roles and responsibilities of the various divisions within the power system. So we receive our weather data from the Office of Emergency Management, right, on the severity of the upcoming storm to help make timely preparations. Right, so during the normal day on February 23rd, right, Power Transmission Distribution requested to have crews on standbys beginning at midnight that would work solely for our electric trouble board to assist the line patrol mechanics and restoration efforts. Throughout the storm, they set up crews around the clock, so crews coming in at midnight, crews coming in at 6, and crews working their regular shifts, and had everyone working 16-hour shifts until the response level returned to normal.
Well, you say here you have a bullet that says trouble dispatcher vacancies.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So one of our issues in our trouble dispatch office is the amount of vacancies that we have there. So this requires them to work before or after shift. And so during a storm, having enough people in the dispatch office, right, to handle the amount of calls and the amount of work going out becomes one of our biggest challenges. Moving forward, we have a new hiring plan. We've been working with Local 18 on increasing the amount of training that goes in and the amount of trainees that go per year. Essentially, we're doubling the amount of trainees that are going through.
And that will address the vacancy issue when?
So moving forward, so we have 2 classes that are in session right now, so we will start reaping that over the next 6 months. We'll start getting more and more people going in, and we'll continue that training program the way it's set up.
And EDM staffing?
EDM staffing is also a very big challenge for us, right? We have over 600 EDM positions, and we only have a little over 300 filled. So we have more than 300 vacancies in our EDM classification. I think our new IBEW contract moving forward has certainly taken out or reduced dramatically the amount of people that are leaving the department. And we now have a lot more people looking to come into the department. So as a recruiting effort, so far it's been successful moving forward. Moving forward, some of the damage assessment, restoration, execution, and planning. Planning appropriate response for capabilities and damage assessment can be difficult during these events. It's very problematic, obviously during rain and winter storms, no different than it is during the summer storms. But how we address these issues are much different. Our priorities during a storm, during a rainstorm, are far different than what we have during a heat storm, right, and how we concentrate our efforts. We had an unprecedented number of trees, 72, that fell on our system. Each of these require a patrol crew to go out, right, clear up the hazard, the electrical hazard of the area, right, and then a following tree crew to come in to remove that hazard, right, once that tree goes in and sees and completes all of their work, then it's bringing a district crew back to set poles, string wires, and move them in. And that's really where the length of these outages came in. And I think that was one of our biggest things here. Because of the sheer size and the area of the trees that came down, the restoration efforts were long as far as getting those trees trimmed enough to where we can get back in and set poles and pull in wire.
And where it says centralized source of data, what is that a reference to?
So I can move on. So our information, and this is something that we talked about or that Mark was discussing, right? Our customer service division receives reports from outages, right, as it comes in, our IVR system. This is one of our biggest issues is how our OMS, our outage management system, communicates with both our customer call center, our IVR system, and our outward facing outage map. And this became a big contention point for most of the people that were suffering an outage, right? They weren't able to get the right information on how long their outage was going to be. The maps were inaccurate. They weren't getting good responses in their phone call. And there was an inconsistent message that went out every time that they would call in. So in addressing this, right, and this is something that working with Mark Northrop on, and this is something that we were discussing, or he was discussing our IVR system, and bringing all these systems together. So long-term, we have a reconfiguration of the outage management system and how to modify all of these particular programs. But as a short-term solution, really, before we get to our next major storm or our major event.
Just tomorrow.
Which, yeah. So tomorrow's, we're not looking at a large storm event, so we don't anticipate it being I should not find that it's going to be a big problem over the next 2 days. But the immediate response is really to have some dedicated staff. And we normally used to have liaisons between our call center and our electric trouble board that would report to the electric trouble board. Same thing with our outage management system. During COVID, we locked down our electric trouble because our dispatch office is such a critical component and with such a few amount of employees that we wouldn't allow people in and out of there, so we didn't allow people in, right? That's over now, right? We can bring people back in. I think our immediate response to this is to have more people available there to be that liaison between those two systems, between our outage management system and our communication, our call center and our IVR system and our website. So that is our big goal moving forward as far as getting that data where it needs to go. And then the other piece of that is also using non-essential personnel to help communicate that back to the call center, right, or back to the OMS system. Right now, when we have an outage or a tree fall or an incident, we send a crew out there. We're reliant on that crew to radio back, right, or make that phone call on what exactly the problem is, how it's going to be remedied, and estimated time. So without having that information back, right, we're at a default on we'll do a blanket based on the number of outages or the number of people that are out. We'll put a blanket out there that it's going to be 24 or 18 or whatever hours based on what we feel it is. And that's not accurate information. But we're relying on the crew that's out there doing the work to be that message coming back. And most of the crews that are out there, right, they're in the middle of doing the work that needs to be done. They're not going to take a break every 20 minutes, come in, right, so they can input on their computer what the issue is and what the estimated times are. So we're looking at is using non-essential personnel, our pole spotters, our training staff, and some of our superintendents to be able to go out ahead of them, right, analyze jobs so we have the proper crews going to the proper job and we're not sending full line crews to a circuit breaker outage or, or a petty man to a large tree that comes down. So we're looking at really pre-fielding jobs and also having someone to go out there to assess, to bring that information back so we get a good message out to our outage
Be more
map.
strategic.
More strategic, yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like you have a lot of moving parts. I do recall that when we first asked for this, Marty, you said we'd have it all stood up in 30 days.
I did, and we do have our emergency management folks that are actually running emergency management and prepared to do that, when we have an incident. And so we are stood up to do that. We will continue to improve this, but we are much better resourced.
So does that mean that there are like names assigned to all of these, we're going to do X, we're going to do Y? There's specific people that know that this is going to be their job.
and there's some chain of command that activates those people, a criteria that determines when it's activated, and a way for this all to connect in, supported by technology, a way for this to all connect into a larger response mechanism were we to be engaged in an emergency that affected not just us, but others.
Yes, and I think that's a good point too, is having those trigger points that are available. So in the past, we've always waited for the city to put together an ICS system, right, that we would respond to and we would participate in. Our internal has always been very small and very centric to, say, the power system. Moving forward, having that incident command centralized under Brian Lamb, I think will help us all, and it also get, our water system, our joint system, and everybody involved earlier in the process, at the start of a storm or pre-storm, so we can prepare these much better.
So it seems like Mr. Lamb should be presenting the plan.
And you exercised this during the last storm preparation, wasn't it?
Yeah, so if I might add, we didn't wait for the next storm to happen. We actually led the efforts with Adam Perez and Aqueduct. So we brought together all divisions to have a wholesome planning. So in the past, I think it was in each system were in their own silos, and by integrating and bring all groups, customer service, FSO for damage assessment and tracking, everyone can voice their opinions on what's working for them or any gaps that they have currently. So by bringing them all together, we have a wholesome planning, and we didn't wait for the next storm. Actually, we did that for the aqueduct response, and someone can chime in if he wants. I think they feel that support. The support is there, whether it's resource requesting through the county for extra support for crews, or even working with Edith Williams and her team with purchasing and getting the items they need that is an emergency procurement.
And I think having it centralized is so important. So it seems like, Tag, you're it?
Yes.
Good.
And not only that, I think the biggest component is the communication aspect, right? To inform our board, to inform our executive management, to inform our city and county partners of what the situational awareness is. I think that's the biggest gap we have. And moving forward, we will work closely with our public information, with Joe Romalo's group, and all groups to understand that. So in closing, my comments is on after action report, we have identified and tasked each division to provide us the concerns and the gaps they felt during the emergency for this storm. Not only are we identifying the gaps, but actually each director of each business group will actually identify who's the responsible point of contact within their group to actually focus and complete that task. We'll also provide you with metrics with the dates that will be completed. So then that way, if we're not meeting those gaps, we can definitely reach back and follow up with these respective directors.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The other thing that I would like to see, and I assume that we do, but I've not heard about them, our drilling emergencies. We're going to, I suspect, be called into situations where we're going to have to respond on a more frequent basis, whether it's climate change or some other external factor. And of course, we live, in the middle of earthquake country, so anything could happen. And I think that systems perform well, emergency systems in particular, when there is an actual coordinated, simulated drilling. Otherwise, they just sit on the shelf, and we can get, a little complacent and a little rusty when it comes to implementation. So I would be very interested in understanding what our plans are, and how frequently and what the results of drills are.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not going to just draft the after action to draft it. I think in the past, many of our experiences, someone drafted an after action report, you got these action items, but nothing was really followed up on it. So my commitment to you and for my team, Office of Emergency Management, we'll continue to provide these drills, make sure everyone understands their roles and responsibilities, and bring in not only our internal stakeholders, but our county and city partners to have a wholesome planning for us.
Terrific. I appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions?
Sounds like we're headed in the right direction.
Aram, did you have something?
No, just to answer your question, President McCLAIN-HILL. The action items are specific and deliverable. I think what's going to be measuring the effectiveness of that is we have to exercise those changes in the field before the next event. So I think we will be communicating to you as far as when that exercise is going to be performed, because a lot of these are process changes, and we have to make sure that everything is in place before the next event. And that is the sign of how effective the after action is. Otherwise, it's a waste of effort to identify something but not change the processes, because everybody will default to what they're trained on.
They did before, what they
So I
used to.
think that's the change management that we have to go through.
Much appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen. We can now move to item number 9 on the agenda.
So I called item.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped. I need to do a couple of other things before going there.
Minutes.
Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Second?
Second. Commissioner Katz,
Aye.
President McCLAIN-HILL,
Aye.
Vice President Ruiz.
Aye.
3 ayes, motion adopted.
All right, so number 9.
So I called item number 9 special only because my name was listed in the body of the report, and I just wanted to clarify for the record that I was never involved in this particular contract or never bid on this contract, had never anything to do with it. So if I can just have staff come up and indicate why I was listed.
Sure. Thank you very much, Commissioner. On the contract selection format for the board report, you're required to include the last 10 years of contracted services related to that type of service, not related to this particular contract. So because there was a history in the contract history for strategic planning services, that is why your firm's name was listed. It's not to indicate any involvement whatsoever in this particular contract that's being awarded.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
All right. Then do we have a motion to approve item 9?
Motion to approve item 9.
Second.
Commissioner Katz,
Aye.
President McCLAIN-HILL,
Aye.
Vice President Ruiz.
Aye.
3 ayes, motion adopted.
All right. Then if we could have item 10, please.
So from our Power Engineering Manager for Distributed Resources and Development Programs, Arash Saidi.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Arash Saidi, Power Engineering Manager for Power Planning. And joined to my right is George Shen, who's an executive of our financial services organization. Before we begin, I'd like to mention one item. So the board item link, which contained all the documentation, inadvertently had one document that was uploaded. So we've gone ahead and fixed that, and that was the actual agreement which makes this program effective. But as of today, it is all resolved. So if we kind of step through this, the agenda is going to follow this format, which is we want to understand the overarching goals, what is the landscape for even bringing this program to the board, the effective compensation structure that would make this program a viable option now and possibly into the future, the overall budget, and then our next steps and the benefits that we gain as a department from this knowledge that will be extracted from these projects. So first and foremost, Governor Newsom has issued numerous letters to various state and other bodies to basically explain the de-energization issues within California. So to that end, it went even further, that in 2021 and 2022, he issued proclamations of emergency as far as energy. And this basically asked to deploy any and all resources to meet the electrical demand needs for the state of California. And where possible, we, DWP, we made ourselves available for the state in order to meet the needs. But going forward, we're going to have higher penetrations of renewables, and those issues are going to be plaguing us as we look into the future. So we're getting ahead of that. And other goals that kind of line up with this are the Executive Directive 25, which basically goes from top to bottom of all city facilities of zero carbon, from the transportation sector, the building envelope, any and all aspects of city operation. Furthermore, LA Metro, LAUSD, who was just here moments ago, as well as long haul, last mile delivery, they all have these decarbonization plans that have either have board approvals or in the midst of doing so. Another thing that's lining up perfectly is the Inflation Reduction Act, because as of right now, this Inflation Reduction Act provides heavy incentives to bring in prevailing wage labor to do this work and to basically bring dollars are much needed to these projects into Los Angeles. Furthermore, the CEC has transportation investment funds that have been unlocked, about $3 billion. And of course, the California state budget, which is still in the midst of being developed, will have carve-outs, as we understand it, for EV, especially on the commercial end. So I think it's important to know that in the draft SLTRP, our modelers did a great job of coming up with basically overarching goals and targets that we need to reach. On the high end, you have about 755 megawatts of energy storage that needs to be deployed just in Los Angeles. And then on the low end, 220 megawatts. Obviously, you know, my motto has always been shoot for the stars and land on the moon. So I'm shooting for 755 here. And one of the ways we're going to do that is by involving that public-private partnership that's worked very well within an example, feed-in tariff, where we've been able to deploy 102 megawatts of installed capacity and gaining steam. This is another example, but we're going to take it a few steps ahead of that, learning all the technology improvements that we've seen in other utilities and bring that within this program. So we also did some landscape exercise and understanding where does this market stand. So PG&E has, in a way, kind of announced they will be publishing an EV export rate, but nothing yet. Having said that, we also want to be kind of at the forefront of this area because energy storage is the future, and it needs to be assets that we deploy in its current state and learn from that technology to be able to monitor and control these assets at the grid level. And then we step down, Dominion Energy also has a similar program where they can call on these assets at any point in time. These are up to 15-year agreements, and of course they take it a step further and they actually cover the battery warranty and what have you. So we took a mixture of these programs and others from National Grid and kind of brought this to the table when we were in the process of developing ours. So the way we see it is energy storage to us, it's irrelevant whether it's sitting on four wheels or it's sitting on a concrete pad. Ultimately, it's electrons. We need them, and we need them discharged during key hours. And that's really the intention behind this program, is that we're open to all sorts of technologies to be able to essentially send the market signal to both the developer side of it, to the customers who are participating, to the manufacturers who are building those chargers or those lithium-ion cells that we need that here in Los Angeles, and we want to use those IRA dollars to help subsidize those costs. So I'm going to pause here for a moment because this is probably some of the most important parts of this presentation. Like I said, stationary and non-stationary energy storage systems are eligible to participate in this program. We've got 20 megawatts that we want to offer on day one through various tranche offerings. So what that means is that we would start off with 4 megawatts, ramp up to 7 megawatts after that 4 megawatts has been subscribed to, and then eventually 9 megawatts. Because I firmly believe that as we launch programs, there's lessons to be learned very quickly. And we may have to come back to this board and say, well, we made a mistake, and we need to make sure those remaining megawatts need to be adjusted and the rate needs to be tweaked accordingly. But as of right now, that's the signal we're sending to the industry. The third thing is, with the help of FSO and George and his team, we were able to develop this standard offer rate agreement. And if you have a chance to review that agreement, you'll notice it's very similar to an commercial EV rate program that was developed, but we've gone ahead and added a lot more color and flavor that allows us to extract the value we need. The fourth item is the interconnection reimbursements. Now, this is absolutely important, and the reason I bring this up, and this is the second instance where we're doing this. The first was our Feed-in Tariff Plus pilot program. And the reason we need this is because, first and foremost, there's a lot of costs associated with these projects. And sometimes when you're doing a project and you have these investments, that upfront cost of being able to connect to our 34.5 system or a 4.8 requires line extensions, requires upgrades to services. So what we want to do is effectively use our capital costs, our borrowing power, to be able to subsidize that cost and then create an opportunity for these developers to really focus on getting their systems built in such a way where it doesn't provide financial burden and ultimately deploys more of these assets. That's really what we're trying to do. Now, moving forward, these are separately metered systems, and the intention there was not to commingle with the existing customer load. We want to track exactly what that energy storage system is doing, and that's why it's a kind of a separate carve-out, separately metered altogether. And the last item here is actually a recommendation that came from various stakeholders, which was, let's make sure that these contracts are good until the useful life of the batteries. So not make them a standard 10, 15, or 20 that we've seen in the past. But if the battery manufacturer says it's only good for 7 years because of the way you're going to operate, well, that's the way we're going to do it. We're going to do a 7-year agreement that'll be effectively aligned with the useful life of that battery. So, like I said, there's 3 compensation mechanisms, and let's dive into a couple of these. So number one is the interconnection reimbursement. This is a one-time payment after the commercial operation date of the system. The other thing is that we will cover up to 75% of that cost, not to exceed $150,000 if connected to the 4.8 and $400,000 to the 34.5 system. The other most important aspect, I think, of this is the signal that we're sending to the market, which is the energy export rate. The way we've set it up is if they charge at the high peak and they discharge when we need it, the spread, so to say, the arbitrage play, is about 17 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, they can, of course, charge on more opportune hours, non-critical peak periods in the late evening, early morning, and they can create a larger opportunity to gain. But as it stands right now, that's the energy export rate that they can pretty confidently rely upon. Now, the third aspect of this is, it's great to say we can provide this export rate, but if we don't give them predictability, these deals become very unbankable, as they say in the industry. And so the idea is when an underwriter is reviewing these projects, they need to know there's certainty. They need to know that we're going to be able to pay for the discharge energy. So what we're doing is basically saying that we're going to guarantee 50 critical peaks. If we happen to only discharge 10 or 20, we're still going to pay for those 50 critical peak events so that we have this resource available. Just like if we have a generation facility, there's maintenance costs, there's upkeep with that. We still have to pay for that. But in the event that we need to call upon that resource, we can depend on that. So high level, we've got a program budget about $32 million. The estimated, and again, I think this is more the worst case scenario with the reimbursements. We've estimated a maximum of $6 million. The board letter, I believe, says $4.5 million. That's probably more realistic. The maximum energy credit paid to all participants is approximately $26 million. We estimate about $45 million in new energy sales. Now, this is one thing to keep in mind is a lot of these folks may or may not choose to procure EV vehicles or energy storage systems. But what we're trying to do is send a signal to do this now and do it in such a way where it's beneficial to the grid and it's bidirectional. So we're basically saying instead of spending, let's say, $100,000 for a typical DC fast chargers, I want you to spend $120,000. Get me that DC fast charger and that can now inject energy back into the grid during those key peak hours. And again, that'll be at full discretion for our control center to do so. Last item here is the net program revenue is approximately $13 million. So I kind of alluded to a lot of these items, but I'm going to really hit on a couple of them. Number one is the dispatchability of energy. At the ECC, we've done a lot of investment in IT, and especially on the grid ops side. So when it comes to distribution energy resource management system, this is the holy grail. This is the ability to control all of these solar energy storage, EV vehicles, all in one platform. And we want to have not only the visibility, but the ability to control that in a secure manner. And I believe we can do that. So we've worked with various organizations within the department, within our Energy Control Center to effectively adopt that method, and it's baked into these guidelines. The other thing that we're really excited about is the market benefit, right? So if we take a step back for a moment, I don't know if most of you know, but in 1999, DWP was the first to offer solar incentives before it was popular. And I think part of the message we sent was, we're here to stay, we're here to be the #1 solar city, and we've achieved that. For, I believe, 7 of the past 8 years, we've ranked as the #1 solar city in the country. I would like us to come back to board in the coming years to say we're the #1 commercial EV or energy storage provider for all cities in the country. So that's the message we want to send with this program. And the last thing here is the environmental benefits. So it's needless to say that, you know, obviously the transportation sector is the most polluting sector in our economy. Now, one of the things we can do is we can send the signals and market opportunities to adopt clean energy technologies. As an example, LAUSD approximately has about 100 diesel-fueled vehicles that's in their fleet. I would like those 100 to be the first to be participating in this program. I would like all the FedEx and UPS last mile delivery trucks to integrate within this system. So we now have a breadth of different customers that are taking advantage of this program. So there's a lot to gain here. And locations. And I kind of thought ahead and I said, well, I'm sure the board's going to ask me this question, is where are these projects going to be located? And how does that correlate with disadvantaged communities? So if you'll notice here, the shaded area in pink represents our quote-unquote DACs, or disadvantaged communities, as defined by Senate Bill 535. Now, we wanted to make sure that when we develop a program, it's not just saying we'll try our best. And so with this, what we went ahead and did, and we looked at where are these, you know, schoolyards located, these bus yards, where the, you know, housing the FedEx trucks and what have you, and it happened to just be perfectly correlated with disadvantaged communities. So the great news is those areas that happen to have the highest levels of pollution and toxins from the tailpipe will be the beneficiaries of this program. And we've gone to quite extensive lengths to make sure they know this program is in the process of coming. They're excited, they can't wait, and so that's why we're here today, to basically more or less explain the urgency behind this and the great benefits that come with the adoption of such a program. So going ahead, we've got obviously a pending board approval. Late March, we'd like to shuffle this over to the ECCJNR Council Committee meeting, and then by early April, full council. And then eventually, if successful, launch this program. So before I end, I think it's most important that I extend the sincere gratitude that's deserved to all the people that were involved. First and foremost, Power System Operations. Matthew Emerson was integral in making sure, first off, that this could be integrated with our Energy Control Center. Power New Business, led by Emil, Lindone, May Sang, Luis Nunez Uribe. In IT, we were working very closely with Sherwin Chan. And in rates, starting from the top, Ann Santilli, George Chen, Dahlia Trad. Moving down, Power System Planning, Vin V and Sammer were the integral folks who actually helped develop this program, from the guidelines and from the application and just the overall process of understanding what a customer's touch points are with DWP. And then special thanks to the City Attorney's Office, Bill Casella and Brian Stewart. They did a lot of heavy lifting, countless hours. I can't recall how many times Bill had to come back from his vacations to really to make this happen. So really special thanks to Bill. And with that said, I look forward to any of your comments and questions.
And probably add customer service. They're being.
Oh yes, I apologize. Customer Service Division was absolutely a major part of this puzzle. Okay, good. All right, thank you so much.
Excellent presentation.
Dr. Pickle.
First and foremost, we thank them for engaging with us early to discuss this program, and our comments reflect the benefit of that long engagement. We recommend that the board approves this program as a pilot. The utility industry's had 3 millennia of experience with storage, starting on the water side. But every kind of storage is different and has different commercial aspects and different technological aspects. And we're seeing a rapid change in storage technology right now and its costs. We're also seeing rapid innovation in commercial aspects. So we expect to see other pilots creating innovation in addition to DWPs. So there's learning to go on here. You have my report. I'm not going to walk through all the key points unless you have questions. But we've tried to make sure that there is no commitment that's too long, longer than 10 years, and that there's a diverse commitment for different kinds of projects, so we get maximum learning out of this. That and the rules are going to change fast over the next 10 years.
Thank you. I will just offer this observation. You talked about the solar program and DWP's early adoption and significant commitment to becoming the #1 solar system, solar city in the country. What we don't talk about is the fact that that comes at a price, and it came at a price to our most disadvantaged customers. And so, I'm always going to be very concerned about how we deploy our transition into our electrification transition. And I would also say that to the extent that you expect commissioners to vote on programs of this kind, that it would be wise to engage with them early as well, because a 15-minute presentation that has implications for so many things may not be enough to get people on board. And let me just say, may not be enough to get me on board. So I would take that note moving forward. And I do have questions about the degree to which this particular work was daylighted in the context of our ongoing equity strategy study. I'm always concerned about, sort of siloed efforts, and as we are building and seeking to fly the plane at the same time, I want to make sure that the systems or that the mechanisms that we've put in place to provide rigorous evaluation and thought from a range of perspectives are present as we roll out programs. But my overarching concern goes to the degree to which we incentivize new industries and private parties with public money to create a certain set of objectives without ensuring that those dollars the impact of those dollars are being multiplied, because the public that is paying isn't reaping the benefits always equally. And I can assess, based on an overlay map, whether that is the case here or not. And so I'm very reluctant, frankly, to move forward. Because there are things that I don't know that are extremely important to me. And you're going to either need to say more about that, or you're going to need to come back.
Yeah, let me just start off with, this is part of a more holistic strategy. And when I say that is that we're looking at it from multiple fronts. There's a lot to gain, because a lot of these folks will likely adopt EV vehicles or EV fleets. But the thing is, in order to make sure this works, is that they need to adopt vehicles that are capable of bidirectional activity. In addition to that, they have to make sure the chargers are. So when all this investment is happening and they install the non-compliant versions of this, they're just going to exacerbate issues on the distribution grid. And we're not going to be able to deploy these assets in such a way that actually benefits the local grid. Now, if we look more closely, in the near future, our plan is to deploy programs that effectively get to the customer level, the residential level, where we can actually manage charging, send the proper signals that effectively say, this is the right time to charge, and this is the time to let your car be on standby. But again, this is again part of a holistic approach where we're starting with, I think, the biggest users of energy and decarbonizing their transportation fleets in order to extract the largest gains. And the other point to this is that the gain that you get from actually integrating within our control system, that is immense. That ability to be able to dispatch these resources like we've seen in demand response. Last year, on a peak day, we were able to dispatch 82 megawatts. If we can bring another 20 megawatts into the fold, that's 100 megawatts that the ECC can push a button and be able to discharge that and not have to turn on one of our LMS 100s. And that's a valuable resource that we can essentially deploy on. Now, between now and 2035, we're going to ramp that demand response program up pretty aggressively, about 500 megawatts. That's basically one of our local generation plants. And again, this is all done through the secure methods deployed through the control of these assets. And I think one of the things that we have to take a step back is to learn from this type of stuff is that we have to make these investments. And I think that's what we're doing now. So I don't know, George, you want to add more to that? Yes.
To address the president's question and concerns on the impact to vulnerable communities and the equity piece, I was encouraged to see the LAUSD piece on there. I know that the replacement of diesel school buses will have, although this program is more focused on greenhouse gas emissions, there will be, potentially significant reductions in harmful emissions with impact on our school children. Are these proposed areas, do they reflect organizational commitments? I know LAUSD was in the room earlier, but do we know what their commitment is and how many buses might be part of this program?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there are 4 schoolyards within LADWP territory, approximately 1,400 school buses, 100 of which are the diesels. So those will be the first that will be the adopters, a replacement rather, of this strategy. The other thing is, in conjunction with that, we've been working very closely with LAUSD on DOE grant submittals. So we're encouraged, based off of a concept paper, to go further and submit a full proposal. And part of that was we actually called out this program and said, if you award us funds, we're going to take those funds and ensure that all dollars associated from the DOE grant go into disadvantaged communities, not a portion, but every single last penny. And that's really what we want to do, is make sure that the burden that typically plagues most communities, most disadvantaged communities, to adopt this type of technology happens to be these interconnection costs. And we want to just remove that off the table. And that's effectively what those DOE dollars were due. Now, come this summer, Cal EPA is issuing further grants, and we're going to be applying for those. And again, we're not grant writers, but luckily we've got an amazing staff of folks that are on board who are helping us put together these grants so that we continuously get these encouraged proposals and hopefully dollars to be awarded, and again, to affect and impact these communities that are historically disadvantaged as a result of
Thank you. And to the president's silo question, is your team working with the LA 100, equity strategies team and fitting this strategy within the broader strategy?
That is, and just one thing to bear in mind.
Is that a yes?
Sorry, yes, that is.
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't direct.
Sorry if I can jump in. So Jason Rondo, Director of Planning.
Today.
Today, yeah. So, I'll check my email, so maybe it's an hour. So I just want to, again, thank Rush for him and his team and George Chen as well. They've put in a massive amount of work on this. I just want to address the question very directly with respect to coordinating with equity strategies. So that effort is ongoing. We have had an internal meeting with all different subject matter experts, sort of an internal change management effort. There was one of those meetings, I believe, at the end of December. There was a significant participation internally. We've said that that's something that we need to continue even before the finalizing of that effort, because we really need to start that change management now. We also have been starting to scope out a series of customer workshops with the dual purpose of educating the customers on, and educating stakeholders as well, on the significant investments that we have made to date on all types of programs. We ran into the awareness issue this past fall when we were seeking support for scattergood modernization, where there was a misperception that we are underinvesting in distributed resources. So we wanted to have a slate of customer program workshops with the dual purpose of awareness, but also feedback on growing those programs. We know from the LA 100 effort and many other efforts that we're going to have to scale these programs up pretty significantly. So we worked with Joe Romalo and Simon Zudu and determined we would like to do those right now, but we want to time those and work together with equity strategies to make sure that they're done in conjunction. So whether it's assessing a pilot program like this, or looking back on existing programs that need to grow, or potentially new programs, that's the form that we would like to do it concurrently and within the framework of equity strategies. So I just wanted to clarify that we are absolutely working together. There's a lot of work to do to make sure that we're extracting the full value from that engagement. We are absolutely working together there.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner.
If I could add.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
May I add?
Yes.
One, this effort estimates revenue of $45 million and costs of $32 million. So that means there are net benefits flowing to other customers if it works as hoped.
Exactly.
Most importantly, this is a relatively modest pilot, and we encourage pilots for the benefit of the innovation. And even if everything goes wrong, the costs are $32 million, and that is less than 0.5% of DWP's total costs. So.
No, I get all that, and I take your point, but I will tell you that I've sat in meetings in this department where, $30 million to support something that supports our least financially capable customers has been presented as a significant obstacle. So it just really depends on what side of the table you happen to be on. Sometimes it's all the money in the world, and sometimes it's just a lint in our pocket. But I am comfortable and happy to hear. And as I said, it would be useful to flag these kinds of projects that are, I do know, important, and I'm clear about how much support this has out there. I just want to make sure that our commitment to moving forward all of these efforts in a way that is cognizant of the total interest of our communities is consistent and is resolute. And it just takes work. And I know that if we do the work, that we can achieve it. So I appreciate the additional information. Again, I appreciate the clarification and the and I'm happy to move forward unless there's someone that has additional questions.
No further questions, but I did just want to comment, having seen the early research side of this with our Smart Grid Energy Research Center and engineers at UCLA who were testing this concept of vehicle-to-grid integration many years ago. I know the long path that it has taken to get here, and I just want to say I'm really excited to see us actually being able to operationalize this concept that will be so transformative for the city. So thank you very much to your team for all of the hard work, and thank you, President McCLAIN-HILL, for ensuring that it continues to be integrated with the equity strategies and focus on our vulnerable communities. And I too very much support this initiative.
Was that a motion?
Sure, if you're comfortable. No questions. Okay, yes, motion to approve item number 10.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner KATZ?
Aye.
President McCLAIN-HILL?
Aye.
Vice President Ruiz?
Aye.
3 ayes, motion adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes this agenda. I have a question to council. Can we move into our second meeting, the special meeting, before going into closed session, or do we have to go into closed session first?
Yes, you can recess this meeting, go into your special meeting, and come back to this meeting.
Okay, terrific. Then we will recess our regular meeting. We are now back in our regular meeting. Do we need to take the roll? I think we do, yes. Would you please take the roll?
Commissioner KATZ,
Present.
President McCLAIN-HILL,
Present.
Vice President RUIZ,
Present.
3 board members, a quorum is present.
Terrific. And we will now recess into closed session. I think, yeah, we can just stay in this room for closed session if that's okay. I guess we have the magic words from General Counsel.
Board shall recess into closed session after to consider the items that are listed under item N of the agenda. After the closed session, the board will publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention thereon of every member present in accordance with California Government Code, Section 54957.1.
Terrific.